All right, we are live. Free agency is here. Dexter, Bryan, Fonseca, New York got game. Busy day here at the New York Post. Busy time for basketball. It is one of my favorite days of the year. Some years you get a lot of activity with this. Some years you do not. I cannot tell y'all how this is going to go. There are not a lot of big names on the board, but that does not mean there will not be trades. That's another thing we should note here, too. We're going to talk about the Knicks. We're going to talk about the Nets, what's going to go with New York basketball, what both teams could do. Brian Lewis, beat reporter for the New York Post, will be joining us shortly. We also have some other guests, my guy Jeff Johnson from Knicks Film School, Gerard Hector from True Hoop, Sean from Knicks Film School, and possibly we'll have our New York Post Knicks beat reporter Stephan Bondi joining us. So we got a star-studded lineup. Should be a really good show. You're here. Free agency is here. I know this is one of your favorite times of year too, Brian. Yes. I know this. So how are you doing, man?
I'm doing great. This is like Christmas. You know, like we get this every year, and we don't know what to expect some years. And as you mentioned, other years it's kind of like we already know like the 6 or 7 things that's going to happen. And as news comes out, we're going to be on top of it because we are going to talk about the Knicks and Nets, but also things around the league and how they may affect the Knicks or the Nets, or just in general things around the league. I think for this year, though, it's less about the free agents.
You have to turn your mic on. Apparently, your mic is not on. We have to turn your mic on. So people were hearing you through me.
It's on.
That's it.
It's absolutely on.
So your mic, Brian's mic is on. We'll have to get our technical crew to come in here and help with that. Brian's mic apparently is on, but we're not able to hear him right now. So we will figure that all out. But as Brian said, this is Christmas time for some NBA fans. Now, this could be good Christmas or bad Christmas, although I don't know if too many people have bad Christmases. But it could not be good if you don't get a player that works. You can look back on the Christmas and maybe not be as fond of looking back on the Christmas. But there's some interesting things already today. We saw the Nets use some of their cap space. We saw some reports about certain other players. That's really interesting. Mark Stein had reported that the Knicks have interest in Russell Westbrook. I don't know how some of you guys feel about that. I don't know if the Knicks should do that. I don't know if they should get into that business. I think one of the more interesting moves, and for some people I talked to, they found it interesting too, Jordan Clarkson, bought out by the Jazz. Jordan Clarkson is a guy, if you've watched New York Got Game live throughout the season, myself and Brian talked about the fact how he could be a good fit for the Knicks in terms of trading. You look at the stats from Jordan Clarkson there up on the screen and what he was able to do shooting from the field. He's a guy who can score a lot with the ball in his hand, shot over 36% from downtown last year. So a nice guy. You can be another ball handler for the Knicks. You love that. The Knicks, a lot of talk when you talk about free agency needs, and we'll get into that. Can they have a secondary ball handler? Can they get somebody who can help Jalen Brunson in terms of scoring the ball? And if you're watching the screen, don't worry, Brian will be back. He's getting his mic fixed. He did not just leave me all alone, although if he did, I'd probably be okay. I do think Jordan Clarkson is somebody that could be a good fit for the Knicks. Now, what will it cost him? That's the interesting thing. Is he a guy who's going to take a minimum? I think he can get a little bit more than that. Is he going to get the taxpayer mid-level exception? That's something else you could look at, too, for Jordan Clarkson. So very interesting moves with Jordan Clarkson, and obviously we're keeping our eyes on the phone. Chris Haynes reporting right now that the Sacramento Kings have arranged meetings via Zoom to talk with both Dennis Schroeder and Russell Westbrook. The Kings are looking to acquire both, but have other point guard options to speak with. So 2 interesting moves. Kings need to upgrade at point guard. I just talked about Westbrook being a possibility for the Knicks. At least Mark Stein had reported that there is interest on the Knicks side of things. So very, very interesting moves there. Russell Westbrook, you see the numbers right there on the screen. You understand Russell Westbrook. He's a guy that can give you high energy, can give you assists. He is not the MVP that he was back in the day. The shooting is what you worry about with him. Can you play him late in games? Because teams will leave him open, especially from 3. He is not a good shooter from the outside. He can still attack the paint. He can still finish with some of the best in the league. But do you trust him to get the job done when he's left open? And what lineups can you play him? Would he be in closing lineups for the Knicks? This is the question for any team. You saw He played decently well in spurts for the Nuggets. If you're a fan of the Nuggets, you saw this. But then he also sometimes has games where he can kill you, right? Where it can hurt your team. And you wonder about that, with him, how that can help with that. So it's very interesting to see Westbrook, what happened. Josh Hart, Knicks forward, had a hilarious tweet that I love right now. I actually got to retweet this from Josh Hart. Josh Hart said it's 601 and I ain't seen one deal. What happened to the game I love? Yeah, that also lets people know that doesn't mean tampering, as some people may worry about, isn't going on. But we'd see deals at 601 and we haven't seen anything. All we got is a Chris Haynes tweet about the fact that the Sacramento Kings are setting up a Zoom meeting with Russell Westbrook and Dennis Schroeder. So very interesting thing there too. What do you think about that, Brian? That this is the only news we've had so far. Chris Haynes saying the Kings have arranged meetings via Zoom. And I don't know about that. Would I feel disrespected if you only wanted to meet me via Zoom and not in person?
Unless this is their way of trying to get around the tampering stuff. I think, but I think
fair point.
I think we all know like what's really going on here. Like tampering doesn't really exist because teams have been. I mean, there's a reason these meetings get arranged so quickly because we know ultimately like everybody's been talking since the season's ended, since even during the season in some cases. This is why you're seeing moves before the move, so to speak. Like I'm still suspicious as to the Utah trade with Charlotte, where Yusuf Nurkic goes to Utah in exchange for Colin Sexton and a pick, where it feels like Utah could have done better than that. With the Kings and meeting with Russell Westbrook and Dennis Schroeder, obviously that's notable because as far as the Knicks go, Russell Westbrook may end up here. We'll see. There's some interest. And I know you don't feel great about that. I think if you're the Knicks, Dennis Schroeder actually makes sense if we're talking about these two. Jordan Clarkson, like immediately, and this is something that I tweeted, Jordan Clarkson, once he became available because he has been bought out per reports in Utah, like he absolutely should be a Knicks target. And just canvassing the rest of the league briefly, like those are two of the guards, when you compare them to anybody else, who would go best off the bench with Dennis Schroeder and with Jordan Clarkson in terms of somebody you can play with Jalen Brunson. Because I think if you're the Knicks and you're looking at who could they get coming off the bench, they need to score off the bench. I feel like we all know that. That person has to be able to play with Jalen Brunson for stretches, not for a long period of time, but just for stretches.
Just for stretches where if he can just play off the ball, right? And Jalen Brunson has been a willing mover off the ball. The Kings also, this according to Jake Fisher, planning to meet with Malcolm Brogdon.
Another guy that you like for the Knicks.
Another guy I like for the Knicks too. You worry about his health. Doesn't have to be, but the Wizards are willing to help facilitate a sign and trade with Brogdon. So the only information we've got so far is because of meetings. Knicks fans, if you're in the chat watching, let us and Brian know. Who would you like? Would you like Russell Westbrook on this team? Do you have the concerns that I do? Dennis Schroeder is a guy, but you wonder, would he take as low as a taxpayer mid-level exception?
Maybe.
To sign with the Knicks.
I can see that.
Now, here's the thing. It's interesting because there's not a lot of cap space out there. The team that really has a cap space is Nets. They use some of it today to re-sign some of their own players. The Pistons do have cap space. So could they bring back Schroeder? Will they bring back Malik Beasley? He's got some things going on. Not sure he's going to get the bag that he thought he was going to get. So there's a couple things going on here that's very interesting. Knicks fans, do you like Jordan Clarkson, who we talked about as a possibility for the Knicks? I think that's a real possibility.
That's the one.
And when you talk to people, they think it could be a good possibility for the Knicks. He can do exactly what you said, handle the ball. Even when Brunson's on the floor, you feel like you could play him with Brunson. Clarkson can be around an average defender when he wants to. Not the greatest defender, but I think he's serviceable enough.
Yeah, I mean, and when the other thing is when you're looking at just the league and free agency in general, like what a lot of teams are going to do are try to fit guys into mid-level exceptions, taxpayer mid-level exceptions, potentially a room exception, potentially a biannual exception if you have access to it. Like it's going to be a lot of these exceptions. And there are going to be some guys like Tyus Jones not that long ago who are going to be forced to take the veteran minimum because this is really a dichotomy of some other things perhaps going on. But the middle class of players kind of getting squeezed out in some ways where you have like a lot of the quote unquote wealth in the NBA is going to the top guys on the team, and the top guys on the team are eating a higher percentage of the cap. and then you just have whatever money you have left to disperse amongst 8, 9, 10 remaining players or whatever it is. And you need to have sort of that middle class of salary to build a team, not just from a functional standpoint, but also from a business standpoint. If you're going to try to make some moves, you're going to need players in the teens. And this is why Mitchell Robinson and Josh Hart, their names are going to keep coming up for the Knicks, because those salaries are very tradable, not just separately, but also when packaged together. And as long as you remain out of the second apron, like that's something that's going to be able to, that will dissect along the way. So I think with this, it's not just about who signs where, it's also the trades. And it's also like looking at, okay, what exceptions can you use? You can trade guys into your mid-level exception now, or trade 4 guys into your mid-level exception.
The non-taxpayer mid-level.
The non-taxpayer mid-level, not the taxpayer mid-level. So if you have access to the full one, so look for that around the league as well. And then obviously you can split your mid-level exception amongst multiple players, which teams have done. Teams do it with second-round picks sometimes. Like they'll put a little bit of the mid-level exception towards a second-round pick, use the rest on 1 or 2 guys. Like there's very creative things you can do. And I give the Knicks credit. And the Nets have done some of this too, but I give the Knicks credit because they've been a creative front office with Leon Rose. And now this is really the sort of tipping point, and we'll see what's the next step of this, because they've put themselves in championship or bust situation.
Yeah.
And with the Nets, we'll see. They used all 5 first-round picks, which was shocking. And we'll see. They have an interesting summer league team, but they also have cap space, and they're gonna be the team to watch in terms of 3-team deals for sure. They're going to be a connector in a lot of ways.
They're going to be a connector. They want to get involved in that. They can take guys into their cap space. I think the thing with the Nets, you wonder as they continue their rebuilding process, and we'll get into that when Brian Lewis joins us, how much do they want to be good? Like, I don't
Probably
think they want to be good.
Next year's draft supposed to be good too. So
yeah. And so they seem like they're a team who wants to position themselves into the top 3.
Debansa, Kareem Lopez, like next year's draft got some real dudes. So,
yeah.
We'll
it'll be very, very interesting here going on. There's a lot of people who've been linked to different places. Duncan Robinson, who not bought out, but opted out of his contract with the Heat, reportedly will have interest from the Pistons as well too. So that'll be very, very interesting. And then the Nets, who we're going to talk about shortly, the Nets, they did sign Day'Ron Sharpe to a $12 million contract. They did sign him. So that's 2 years, $12 million. So he'll return to the Brooklyn Nets. Zaire Williams, also on the same deal, 2 years, $12 million. So very small deals for guys where there was not a great market for, but the Nets are able to bring them back. Those are kind of like their vets on the team when you look at the Nets. Nets don't really have a lot of vets, at least for the Zaire Williams contract. The second season is a team option. So Zaire Williams getting $6 million will have a chance. The Nets can get off that money if they want to. So they can do a couple of different things.
That's a very team-friendly deal.
Very team-friendly deal.
I don't love that for Zaire Williams, but
yeah,
it's a very team-friendly deal. And I mean,
but he doesn't. They have the leverage, and he doesn't have the option.
Yeah, I mean that's really what it is. And he otherwise wouldn't get $6 million, or if it's that, we don't know like what the rate is if it's backloaded. But let's call it $6 million on the front end of it. So I mean, he's getting a nice balloon payment for a year, and then they could assess from there. And obviously, if you're the Nets, you're looking to hit on guys around the margins. Like this is how many years ago, it feels like so long ago because this was like Sean Marks in the early stages, but this is how they found Spencer Dinwiddie.
We got some breaking news.
Oh,
Grizzlies and Jaren Jackson Jr. are expected to agree on a 5-year, $240 million extension.
240.
So he gets a max deal, including a player option in the final year of the contract, which would be 2029, 2030. So Knicks fans, if you were hoping to still get Gerard Jackson Jr., that is not happening. However, what is happening? What is happening?
That's almost 50 a year on average. That's like 48 a year. So, I mean, listen, Towns' name is always going to be thrown around as it pertains to like, oh, can you upgrade this part of the roster? But I don't think that's something the Knicks are going to explore yet.
Yeah.
So you can kick the can down the road on Jaren Jackson Jr. for now, Knicks fans.
Yeah.
You'll be fine.
Yeah, you can. You'll be fine kicking down the road. All right. Our guy from the New York Post, who you saw with us a lot during the live stream during the playoff run, but he does a fantastic job covering the Nets. Our guy Brian Lewis is here with us, and he will join us now. Bryan, there you go. We see you now, Bryan. Bryan, how you doing, man?
All right. How you guys doing?
Bryan, I do not hear you.
Neither do I.
That's odd.
Glad it wasn't just me.
Wasn't it? Bryan, you can hear us though, correct?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Bryan can hear us.
I'm not muted.
We
You're
cannot
not.
hear Bryan. All right, we're working on that. Bryan, hang tight. We are not disrespecting you. You know, we never disrespect you like that. Being the great reporter that you are, we'll just blame technology. That's it. We'll just blame technology here on the first day. Our guys here will look into it, and we will get Bryan back up in 1 second. So right now, again, it is 6:17. A little unusual, and there's not one signing. Now, the fans out there might be antsy.
Except for the extension.
Except for the extension.
Yeah.
You know.
No one's changed teams prominently. That's really what it is.
Nobody's changed.
Aaron Jackson Jr. is back, and Zaire Williams and Day'Ron Sharpe got reported earlier. We're expecting that to be the same number, 2 for 12. Russell Westbrook is having meetings. We'll see what's going on with everything else. But I think right now there are a lot of moving parts and a lot of just talking. I kind of liked, by the way, not for nothing. I do enjoy this being at 6 p.m., but I kind of did like when it was at midnight.
Nah, I much like it at 6 p.m. Nikolai, come here. Fast this. And I'm nice with the left. Switching out here. We're going to see if we can get this working. We can hear
left-hand finishes.
Bryan Lewis.
Not the easiest for some people.
There we go. All right, guys, let's bring Bryan back up and let me see if we can hear Bryan here as we change the channels. Can
you hear me?
Here. Bryan.
Can you hear me?
I do not hear you. That did not work. We are go back to square one. Hang tight, Bryan. We appreciate you.
We will get your Nets news very soon.
Although Bryan's probably out here hoping no news breaks during this time until he's off of his segment with us, and that happens. But then we don't hear Bryan, we don't hear any of our guests, so none of that will be good. Again, moving along with free agency, just looking at, we're going to talk about what the Nets can do with the rest of their cap space. As we look on here, not much going on. Again, nobody has switched teams yet. Very quiet first 18 minutes of free agency. We know it will not be quiet all along. I feel like every time your phone has an alert, you're looking at it on edge.
Do you think that, because this is a theory that I'm seeing floated around by somebody that I know who covers a team in the NBA, we'll say, but he's like, I bet that the league is kind of working with Shams to like hold back on spoiling everything at 6.
Chill. Hold off on the news.
Because, you know, this happened during the draft where the league was getting pissed that Woj, who probably would have had like 8 deals reported by now because he don't care, you know, like that he was spoiling it and what have you.
I personally, in the draft, I don't know. I guess I also got used to that. We got a deal here, and it comes from your boy Shams. Santi Aldama has returned, agreed to a 3-year, $52.5 million deal to return to the Memphis Grizzlies. So Santi Aldama returning. The Grizzlies just bringing back their players,
except for Desmond Bane,
in terms of their business right now.
Yeah, Aldama's interesting because that situation got murky because you don't really know what their next step is going to be. But I think with Memphis, they got a good deal for Desmond Bane. Like, they got enough draft picks. It made me actually look at, like, hey, could they actually move some of those picks and do something? But it looks like they might just wait for now. They're also very high internally on Zach Edey, it appears, from what's been out there.
Yep.
Zach Edey's also injured right now because when you're 7'6", that tends to happen, you know, and he's going to miss maybe the start of the season. But Memphis kind of semi-running it back, just one big trade.
And just to let it know, people on our end, I'm glad some fans in the chat, they said they were able to hear Bryan. So we know something's on our end with it being routed to us where we're not able to hear Bryan. But the fact that you guys were able to hear Bryan Lewis, that is, not Bryan Fonseca.
That's interesting.
That is interesting. So we know that. Thank you for telling us. Peace Ways. Shout out to you in the chat. You did say that. Shout out to my guy Hector, Uptown Sports TV.
Yeah.
And
I'll be streaming with Hector later.
Junior Honoree said, enough about these retirees, please. We need them to get more shooting athletic, not create a 4 and 5 offense. I agree. I know he's talking about the Knicks
and Russell Westbrook.
And talking about Russell Westbrook.
Yeah.
I happen to agree with you, Junior, and I'm not going to disrespect anybody and call them a retiree, but I understand your point. I understand what you're saying, and they need to get athletic. They need to, have more shooting on the team. And I'll get into guys I think that are pretty decent fits for the Knicks. So the Grizzlies making 2 moves here. Jared Jackson Jr., Santi Aldama.
This is interesting from 15 minutes ago, but Ian Begley obviously covers all New York basketball locally. Said, I think Detroit, as others have said, will be in solid position on both Caris LeVert and Duncan Robinson in free agency, which opened 5 minutes ago. I just want to point out, because as you know, I have a little bit of insight on this. And what I'll say is, there was this idea that the Heat and Duncan Robinson are working on an extension. Not to say that that's not the case, but it hasn't materialized, evidently, because if you're looking at Memphis, for example, their deal came out. The Nets came out already in terms of re-signing some guys. And I think what we have to watch for as it pertains to that situation, Malik Beasley, as Shams mentioned, was in line for 3 years, $42 million. Yep. That was the deal. And now that he's in question, and even if he were coming back, I think they're a Duncan Robinson sort of team. So it'd be interesting to see when you're looking at the rest of the Eastern Conference, if you're a Knicks fan or Nets fan watching this, whether or not Detroit can do that, because there's a world where you could actually turn Duncan Robinson to a sign and trade and be able to sign Caris LeVert for some creation next to Cade Cunningham. Both of them, by the way, played at the University of Michigan. Both of them played together at Michigan. So it'd be a little bit of a homecoming for Caris LeVert and Duncan Robinson. So Detroit would be adding those two. If this were to happen, we'll see. And also, let's remember that they played in that playoff series against the Knicks without Jaden Ivey, which was a sneaky important thing for them, because you saw the Knicks be able to do some things defensively in that series because Jaden Ivey wasn't there. So,
all right, we're going to try again to bring on Brian Lewis, see if we are able to hear him. We also bring back Brian Lewis up here, see what we're able to get. Brian, are you with us?
I'm with you.
I still don't hear Brian. The people hear Brian. So somehow the audio is getting routed through.
People can hear me.
Routed to us. Brian, we apologize for this. Brian, you know what? We'll just blame you. We won't blame free agents. We'll just blame you now. I can't even hear what you say. So if you curse me out, won't even know. Won't even be able to hear.
Yeah, but the FCC will probably get me, though, because the people can hear me.
Again, and see if that makes any difference. I had 2 going on here. Let's see. Brian, talk again.
Can you hear me?
There we go.
I hear him now, too.
Yeah, we got it. There we go. Shout out to Nikolai, our super producer, who got the job done.
It'd be amazing if the commenters don't hear us now, but I hope that they do.
If they don't now. All right,
it'll be like we're just trolling the audience.
Nikolai came through. I'm glad I switched out. That's the original one that it was routed to. Brian, how you doing, man?
All right. How you guys doing?
We're doing good, man. We're doing good. Free agency is interesting for the Nets. There are 2 reported deals today. Zaire Williams signing a 2-year, $12 million deal. Very team-friendly. Team option in the second year for him. And then Day'Ron Sharpe as well. Brian, what do you make of those deals of the Nets using their cap space to bring back, I guess you can call these guys a couple of their vets, right? Like they're the vets on the team. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
on this team, I guess 23-year-old passes for a vet.
Yeah.
Listen, I understand that when the Nets have had so few, young players that the guys that the fans can get attached to, there was I don't want to call it panic, but concern, I guess, yesterday when they did not tender qualifying offers to both of those guys. So some fans were worried that they were going to dip. But that was never really the case. I mean, here's the thing. If the Nets had given both of those guys qualifying offers the other day, right? You're talking, well, first off, their cap holes were like $30 million between.
Right.
That's $30 million that's clogged up that you can't use. Now, Zaire probably would have taken his qualifying offer. I don't want to speak for him, but I'd be shocked if he didn't just immediately take the qualifying offer at $8.35 million, right? So that was the first danger. And then the other danger is Day'Ron, even while they're negotiating and talking, that's $12 million tied up for his cap hold. So
right.
What they did was they risked them being a flight risk overnight, and ended up locking them both up today on deals that were maybe not great for the player, but definitely great for the team.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
what
I
but,
said.
but what leverage do those players really have, if we're being honest?
To be fair, I'm not sure that Zaire had a ton of leverage.
Yeah.
This is probably about fair for Zaire. Dayron, I know a lot of people thought that he might end up signing for a little bit less than that cap hold, so maybe $10 million. And there are teams that could have paid that, or maybe 8 million, 9 million, whatever, 3 years, 27 million, whatever. But this ends up, you're talking about, they're both identical deals. You're talking about 5.7, almost 5.8 in the first year with a team option on the back end. So really, that's not the Nets committing a lot of money. Those are both deals that leave them with about $34 million left to spend that they have to spend by opening night. And they can get it higher if they want. There's some non-guaranteed contracts that they can get off if they need to create more money.
How do you think the Nets, I know we talked about this a little bit recently, Brian, too. The Nets have the most cap space, or at least at the start before they started the draft. And I don't want to say, well, we talked about this. It doesn't appear like they're incentivized to be good next season. Okay.
No, they're disincentivized. They're incentivized to be bad.
Bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
How do they spend the rest of this cap space? How do you see them approaching the rest of this free agency? Could they be involved in trades? Brian just talked about them possibly getting in 3-team trades as a connector, sort of. How do you see them using the rest of their cap space?
I see them using the rest of this cap space for salary dumps. That's what it is. And I understand why that there were a number of Net fans who would want Santi Aldama, right? Who would have wanted him. Young, still improving, Spanish, just like your coach, floor spacer. So I understand why there were some guys that would want to try to make a run at Santi. But, the fact remains it was never likely. I expect them to use this space to take salary dumps either directly for a pick, or if they end up trading somebody, like, say, Cam Johnson, and they end up bringing back more than they're sending out monetarily, right? And get some assets that way. But either way, that's how I expect it to be used. I don't expect them to be running around chasing free agents. Now, things could change. Here it is. What is it? 6/29. Things can change quickly in the NBA, but that's how I would foresee it being used.
Do you think there's a possibility, though, that they can use some of this cap space to maybe overpay for somebody who they think they can flip, like who's out on the free agency market? I'll give you an example. If Duncan Robinson, who just hit free agency, is somebody you think you can flip and you can pay more than the mid-level exception, is that something you think they could do, like maybe a 2-year deal? Because then in February, you could look at a contender and be like, hey, we have this guy shooting 40% from 3. You know that he's been in the playoffs a bunch of times. Could you give us something for that? Like, you think that's something that Sean Marks would entertain as well?
Well, he might entertain it. I'm not sure that I would consider it likely. And you also have to be careful. I've always been of the mind that you have to be careful when you say, I'm willingly going to overpay on a player.
Which they've done before. Which they've done before in the past, and have at least attempted to.
Yeah, well, yeah. Sean Marks got saved from himself on a number of restricted free agents.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Saved from himself. But, yeah, I'm not telling you that he wouldn't do it. I'm just telling you that I'm not necessarily expecting that to be the case. I think what's more likely is it's somebody coming off of another team's roster whether you're facilitating in a 3-team deal and somebody's parking salary there. I'm not saying out of any knowledge that Cole Anthony is coming here, but I'm just saying something like that.
What you could
where
see.
somebody's trying to get off of a salary.
Yeah.
And Sean says, "All right, I'll do you a favor. I'll take him for a fee."
I want to say I see what the NBA did here. Now that we reached this half-hour mark, now we got some deals coming in. Player you covered, Bryan, Dorian Finney-Smith signs a deal with the Rockets, and Paul Reed. He said AK B-Ball Paul. Who calls Paul Reed B-Ball Paul? Who does that?
No, that's a real nickname.
Did not know that. 2-year deal to return back to the Pistons. So there you go. Couple of deals there. Bryan, I guess last thing before we let you go, what's your expectation? The Nets are active in free agency in terms of trades, and do you think they'll be active this summer? Do you think you'll see a couple of trades for the Nets, or do you think it'll be pretty quiet?
Oh, I think they will be active. Listen, I mean, you've got $34 million worth of cap space. You can create even more if they waive the 4 non-guaranteed guys that they re-upped over the weekend, right? Anywhere from $34 to $42 million in cap space. Knowing full well that next year, tons of teams will have cap space. I would borderline say it's irresponsible. I mean, first off, there's a salary floor, right? So they are going to be spending money. And I don't think it's going to be running around with offer sheets to restricted free agents. So I would expect that they would be, I know they're going to be active. Specifically, that's the manner I would expect them to be active in terms of taking on salaries in trades. Now, I'm not guaranteeing that activity is trading Cam Johnson. I'm not guaranteeing that activity is trading Nick Claxton. Because frankly, I mean, 2 of the teams, if you would ask me a week ago regarding Nick, I would have thought Phoenix was a very viable option and the Lakers were a very viable option, and you could play them off against each other. Well, I mean, Phoenix all of a sudden just added a whole lot of wingspan. What did they add? Like about 22 feet of wingspan?
Yeah.
3 players.
22 centers. Yeah.
Yeah. So that might be off the board. And the Lakers, I'm not saying where Ayton is going because I don't know, but
feels like it.
I'm just saying that seems like those are 2 potential trade partners that are less incentivized than they were a week ago. Right?
Yep.
So I'm not necessarily saying those are what the moves are, but I would say moves are coming.
Moves are coming. If you're a Nets fan, hold on. You saw a lot of draft picks. You might see a couple of deals. We'll see what happens with the Nets through this free agency period. That is Bryan Lewis, the great Nets beat reporter, here with us for the New York Post. Bryan, appreciate the time. Sorry about the technical difficulties. I told you it was not your fault. It was our fault. But I was going to try to blame you anyway. But I would never do that.
I could have just yelled louder.
Yeah, but then you would disturb people at home. You don't want to do that. You don't want to yell louder. Then you also look crazy. Just yelling in the room by yourself. Not good. Thank you, Bryan. Appreciate you, man.
Thanks, Bryan.
All right. Thanks for having me.
All right. That's the great Bryan Lewis.
Yo.
Covering that.
That Dorian Finney-Smith deal is interesting.
I do find that Dorian Finney-Smith deal interesting.
Can we do a couple minutes on that real quick?
Yeah, we will. Let's bring in our next guest. We have our guest here with us. He can come and talk with us about it too. 4 years, $53 million is what Bryan is talking about. But our guy from Knicks Film School is here. Jeff Johnson is joining us right now. Jeff, what up?
What's going on, fellas? How you feeling?
Feeling good, man. Feeling good. How are you enjoying your first half an hour of free agency? This is I feel like for the Knicks fan, maybe not as stressful a free agency.
I mean, it's kind of like when you go to the store on a budget. You know what you got to spend, so why are you looking at something you can't afford, right? There's no reason to get mad because you can't get it. So it's kind of been calm, man. Josh Hart put out a tweet at 6:01, like,
I saw that.
A minute and ain't no trades, ain't no action. What happened to the game I love? That's kind of how I felt. I mean, we're not getting to the real tampering. Like tampering back in my day, we would have had 10 deals already lined up to talk about. But I get it. They at least waited until 6:30 to give the illusion that there wasn't any pre-deadline talk. So I get it, man. But all in all, there's a lot of interesting names out there. So I have my eye on it. But I think at this point, especially when it comes to the Knicks, you're looking at a lot of veterans that are trying to come in on minimum deals, that you're trying to get the most for your value. So it's still going to be an interesting free agency period. I'll say that.
It'll still be interesting. Is there any vets you want? We both like Jordan Clarkson here. He just got bought out by the Jazz. Would you want Jordan Clarkson in the Knicks uniform?
I think it depends on the other moves. This is going to be a whole greater than the sum of its parts situation. So I think the idea of Jordan Clarkson is cool, especially if he's on a minimum deal. But what it is in actual reality when it comes to fruition is going to be a different story. I think he's going to be somebody who can get you a lot of points off the bench, keep the offense going. If you're looking for a safer version of the campaign experience, maybe that's what you're looking for with Jordan Clarkson. Something that's a little less rocky, more blackjack than craps. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I could see that. One person I am looking at is Luke Kennard. But we might not have Luke Kennard money if you're looking at it from the Knicks perspective. But that's somebody who he ain't shoot less than 40% from his career from behind the arc. And I think in this new NBA, especially with the issues that the Knicks had, especially the second half of the season, you want somebody that's going to be able to spread the floor, hit an open 3-point shot, keep the defenses honest, and be able to contribute to bench scoring. And I think with all of that combined, Luke Kennard is somebody that could be an ideal fit for this roster as it's currently constructed.
How did you feel when the report dropped about Russell Westbrook and the potential mutual interest between the two? Dex is not a fan. I don't know if it makes a ton of sense. Where are you at with this, Jeff?
I got love for Russell Westbrook. He's one of my favorite players. I'm definitely a Russ fan. It's just wrong place, wrong time to me, especially with this roster. If you didn't have someone like Josh Hart, who I think at this point in his career gives you the Russ Westbrook experience, probably a lighter version when it comes to the ability to be prolific with triple doubles and the assists and all of that. Almost the same level of volatility, maybe a little bit less with Josh Hart. The shooting is comparable at this point. I think you get redundant if you add Russ to this team. Yeah, I'm thinking about it right now. You get Russ and Josh Hart potentially being a lineup off the bench. If the goal is to maximize the offense that you have and the key players, I don't see how maximal maximization happens if you add Russ to this squad. So yeah, I wasn't really moved by it. I think he's staying out west anyway. That's where the indicators are looking like, but I wasn't really moved.
I'm with you, Jeff. I just wanted another deal. Well, report came in. The Grizzlies and Cole Anthony's reps at XL Sports, is from Shams, are working towards a resolution that allows Memphis to create the necessary cap space to renegotiate and extend Jaren Jackson Jr. while giving Anthony the opportunity to find his next destination. So that means either they're trying to move Anthony. I don't think they're trying to work on a buyout with him, but they're trying to move Anthony. That's what would sound like there. So that's
would you like Cole Anthony to come home, Jeff, and fill that off the bench scoring role, or is he too small? Because I think the key, Jeff, though, is like if you're going to bring in somebody to score off the bench, they kind of have to play with Jalen Brunson in spurts, like not in totality, but like at times. So I do think Cole would be a little bit small, but I'll ask you the question anyway. Like, do you think that's somebody that they could look after?
I think he's a solid option. I like what he brings to the table. He can run an offense. He could hit an outside shot. He could do all the little things. That's the one thing about Cole. He'll do the little things. And you know he's a dog. He isn't going to take plays off. I just once again look at this roster and I say, okay, you're bringing in somebody who's going to clearly be a backup one. What does that say about Tyler Kolek and your backup situation with these rookies that you have sitting there on the bench that got minimal to no burn in the regular season and definitely in the playoffs. Ariel Hukporti right now is probably the one known quantity that they have from that rookie class because he got major minutes. Tyler Kolek also got enough minutes, in my opinion, to say he should at worst be competing for the backup point guard role.
Agreed.
So I think you impede his progress if you bring somebody like Cole Anthony in. If he wasn't such a good family man and he didn't want to stay close to his kids, I would have said, sign me up for 1 year of CP3.
I wouldn't have been. I'm a CP3.
We brought this up before.
I don't think I'd be that opposed for it just because he was pretty efficient last year. He played all 82 games. Does he help you in terms of pace off your bench? No, but he's not going to mess things up. You know what I mean?
He's another playmaker.
Yeah. He's another playmaker.
He's somebody that Kolek and everybody, not just Kolek, everybody will be able to learn from and be better.
Yep.
He makes teams better. He makes players better. And not just that season, going forward. So it would be an investment in your team in the current players as much as it would be finding another playmaker to run the offense on the floor. But that would be somebody who at least I know he would get minutes off the bench, but he may be able to directly help in Kolek's progression too.
Let me throw one other name at you, because one of the things I think you're hearing from a lot of Knicks fans, and I think you agree they can use some playmaking off the bench. So that might be Kolek, to your point, Jeff. If they can use some size, Precious Achiuwa is likely not coming back.
Right.
I don't think Campaign is likely to come back either, though he might be a little bit more up in the air than we realize. Would you like a Gerson Yabusele?
I wanted Yabusele last year.
Oh,
I wanted him last year. I got hyped off the Olympics. I ain't gonna lie. The
ain't nothing wrong with that.
Marketing plan hit me. I was like, yo, bring him in because he can hit a three.
Yep.
Strong at the 4 or 5 position. Somebody who fit the archetype of what you would want on this Knicks ball club. It depends on the price. He might have his play might have priced him out of the Knicks range.
I think so too.
Yeah. So and then this all goes back once again to what is going to be the offensive identity of this team. Where do you want to move? Do you want to play Cat mostly at the 5, or are you looking to play him more at the 4? Judging off that would signal to me where they would want to go in free agency and what moves they would want to make. You still got Mitchell Robinson. Him and Bridges are about to be extension eligible. There's a lot of decisions that need to be made. It once again just depends on what they want to do. I think Yabusele is a great option, somebody who could bolster the bench and can stretch the defenses on the floor and be able to hit an outside shot. I just really like his game. And if the price was right, and given how else they are going to fill out the roster, I wouldn't mind kicking the tires, but I don't know if they got Yabusele money right now.
Yeah, I know. We're talking about bargain base. I don't know if bargain basement might be too rough, but we're doing a little shop. I forgot what you said. What'd you say, Jeff, at the beginning when you came on here? You said you might be trying to do like some window shopping.
Yeah, it's a lot of window shopping that's going on right now. When you window shop, you know you're not buying, and if you go inside with the intention to buy, you're just going to be pissing yourself off. So don't do it. You know the money that you got. You can spend, unless they got some money under the couch or they know they're going to pay that credit card bill off next month. They can take a look, but I don't know.
Sometimes you got to know what you got. Everybody,
exactly.
that is Jeff Johnson. Check him out. Knicks Film School hosts Casual Fridays with Sean Hardy, who will be joining us a little bit later.
That's right, yeah.
Jeff, I appreciate you giving some time. I hope the rest of your first night of free agency becomes a little bit more exciting. But I'm with you. We need to bring back Tampering, man. Tampering needs to come back.
I mean, at least, man, we got to spice up our lives at this point,
Yeah.
Less Office and more Love Island we need on in the free agency right now. So we'll see.
I hear you on that. All right, man. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate it. We will catch up with you soon.
Jeff.
That is Jeff Johnson, as I said, from Knicks Film School. And joining us now is good friends. We talk a lot of hoops with this guy all the time. You catch him on True Hoop. The only thing I don't like about him is the team he roots for. And I always will say that as long as he comes on. It's my good friend, Gerard Hector. Gerard, what's up, man?
What's up, family? How you guys doing? B, what's happening?
Happy first day of free agency. How you doing?
I mean, you know me.
Yeah,
guys.
are you bored? Are you excited?
I'm fine. Like you know me. None of these moves to me like matter until I know what exactly is it you are doing as an organization and what is your actual plan and vision, and do I see it, right? Like do I see the vision? And let's be honest, the majority of teams that exist in this league, I just don't see the vision, man. I don't know what you're trying to do. I really don't.
Well, counterpoint.
Yeah.
Dorian Finney-Smith to Houston? Question mark?
Yeah, what'd you think of that?
I think that's good for Houston. Look, Houston is in a place right now where I think we talked about this. Maybe on one of our last shows, right? Like, so they are in a team that, look, we won 50 games last year and we couldn't score to save our lives in the postseason, but we can guard our asses off. Okay, great. That's a win. We got maybe the best scorer in the history of basketball on our team in Kevin Durant. And we didn't have to give up none of our young dudes to get him. And we figure, if things go right and we find ourselves in the conference finals, that's all gravy for us. Because clearly they're not in we're going to win now mode, because if they were in win now mode, they would have moved a bunch of their young people to get even more other quote unquote win now guys. And when this team has to pay Amen Thompson and players like that real money, Kevin Durant won't be on this team anymore. So I like what they're doing, and I like the Dorian Finney-Smith for them because, again, he just adds a little bit more upside, a little bit more professionalism in the locker room. And, again, if injury luck breaks right and things break right for them, they could find themselves in a conference finals, and anything could happen after that.
That's really fair.
Yeah.
We just saw Jake LaRavia signed a deal. I believe that was with the Kings. He is back with the Kings. I
like Jake a lot. I'm sad that Memphis let him go, but he just
I thought his development was pretty good with Memphis, even though they let him go. They never picked up that extra option on him. So you like that move.
Memphis did make some noise today, though. They kept your boy, Jaren Jackson Jr.
Your boy. That is your boy.
That is your boy. For 240, and then Santi Aldama 3 for 52 on the back end of that.
So I think. You know me. I when it comes to these big deals, I look straight at the math, right? Like, what is it? Are you paying exactly what you are worth? So, I did the quick math back of the napkin. Total payroll last season in all the NBA, so all teams combined, was over $5 billion. When you split it up into wins, 1,230 wins. So that's $4.27 million per win. If you look at Jaren Jackson's estimated wins last year, he was 10.6, if I'm not mistaken. So that gets you out to 44 and change, right? In terms of what you should pay him. So they paid him slightly more, which whatever. I don't. That's not a big deal. Santi had a year of pulling him up right now. He was 4.7. So that actually is a good deal for them because 4.4, that's them at 17, 18. So he's right. I think you average that out. That's like 13 he makes per year on that deal. So they got a good deal on that. So, and he's 24, so he can get a little better. I like this deal for them. The question I have about Memphis is, so are we keeping John Morant or are you doing something different? I know the Memphis fans are going to kill me when I say stuff like that, but I'm just asking. I'm just like, are we?
I don't think it's something they're going to do yet. It seems like like they're going to go in with the mentality of, hey, we're building around John Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Zach Edey, because I legitimately think that front office,
they're high on him.
Like they love Zach Edey. I keep saying this, and I think that's their three. But like just in general with free agency, I mean, we've been talking about the Knicks a lot, obviously, because look at where we are. Russell Westbrook is a name that's being floated around here. I've thrown Jordan Clarkson out there.
Yeah, how Gerard just said, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, and I think Gerard, and this is a point we're going to hammer, like, whoever they bring in as the guard to create offense coming off the bench needs to be able to play minutes with Jalen Brunson. Do you think Russell Westbrook in particular can do that?
I mean, he can. The question is how effective. Look, if you're the Knicks, how effective is it in the postseason? That is the question you want to ask. Yeah, in the regular season, sure. In the postseason against Indiana and against Cleveland, right?
Right.
I'm gonna move Boston to the side for now because of their situation. And then that third team that we don't know yet that will come out of nowhere and be very good, right? Will he be good in that scenario? I don't know. And I honestly don't think so because, look, if you're going to play them, you're going to say, okay, we'll sell out to stop him. Sag off Russ, dare him to shoot threes. He ain't going to make them. Like you just know, like when it matters most and when you need them to, it's like he's going to hit what his average is, right? And you're like, all right, cool.
Yeah, I'm just that's the thing for me. And look, I've been a Russell Westbrook defender.
This
times.
is true. Yes,
I'm a Russell Westbrook fan of how he plays the game. What I am not a fan of is how teams guard him in the playoffs. And to Gerard's point, that's why I don't think he would be a good fit on the Knicks. If you're going to get into the Russell Westbrook business, you have to understand what Gerard said. This is how he's going to be played.
and
This is what's going to happen.
and they're going to sag off of him and Josh Hart, who might have to be out there together.
Right.
But you
To
can't-
Jeff's
you
point, you got
can't
two
play them
non-shooters.
together.
Like it's just.
Would you play
it's-
and would you, sorry to cut you off, Gerard, would you play him in a lineup with him and Josh Hart and also have
Mitchell
Jalen
Robinson?
Brunson?
Oh.
No, I was even going to go there. That's like 90s, 80s basketball. I wouldn't
Your
even go there.
spacing is god awful. in that
Right, but I was
scenario.
going to say, could you play a lineup with two non-shooters and then two of your weakest defenders, who are your best offensive players, in Brunson and Cat? You can't even do that. That's not what you want ideally either. So it doesn't help the Knicks and the issues they need to address.
We got to comment on this. We got a few comments we should get to. We got to comment on this. Gerard, I'm going to toss this to you. David Banks, thank you for checking in, says Westbrook and Hart coming off the bench together would be maniacal. He says teams would not want to face that beast along with Deuce outside scoring aside.
I mean, outside scoring aside is a huge part of this.
Yeah, I don't know if you could put the outside scoring aside in the playoffs. Like that's kind of the thing. Because like the energy would be, to David's point, off the charts, but the shooting, I mean, teams will just sag off of both of them and be like, all right, we dare you to beat us, and then it'll be 5-on-3.
What happens in a game where it's tightly called officiating wise? Hart and Russ are known to foul, like in those scenarios. And now they're in foul trouble, and that's your bench. Now what you going to? Like, look, someone in the chat asked, have teams learned anything from the Pacers and OKC in terms of constructing rosters?
Shout out to Fred. Yep.
Look, I get it. Russell Westbrook is a name, right? He won an MVP a decade ago. Like, yeah, he's Russ. Like, he plays like maniacal. Yeah, this, that, and the third. Great. Yo, man, you might have a player on your squad right now who could fill that role and then some, who is younger and has a ceiling not to be an MVP, but to be better than Russ right now.
The current version.
Why don't you find out who that is instead of bringing Russ in here? That's just
I agree. And look, the Knicks are high on Dadier. You just mentioned his name. There are people who scouted him last year that like what they saw with him. Play him. Find it. I agree with you. Find it out. But the problem is, a lot of people are, I think, enamored with names. But I think what's going to be interesting, Gerard has talked to me about this. Gerard and I talked about this during the finals when he came on with me. And we talked about what Fred was talking about here. Shout out to Just Fred with the comment about, does the success of the Pacers and OKC persuade any front offices to do things differently? And you and I, Gerard, were talking about how you should take a look at what's going on here. You got to look at how teams are playing 9-10 deep. The days of being with a couple of superstars and not having any depth, those days are over, people. Over in the NBA. Happening.
Look,
right?
We saw it 2 years in a row. Indiana ran ruckshot all over the New York Knicks. Why? Because they go 10 deep, y'all go 7 deep. I don't know what else to tell you, right? When your best guys got to play 40 plus minutes a night and their best guys only got to play 36, well,
it's gonna catch up. It's gonna catch up with something, right?
It's also a play styles thing where like the best player on the Pacers is running up and down the court and like constantly passing the ball, moving the ball. Whereas there are some Knicks fans who complain that the ball sticks to Jalen Brunson a little bit, or the coaching, where the coaching was like, hey, the offense is very isolation heavy, not super creative. Yeah, and we'll see if there's any modifications to that moving forward. I kind of think like Jalen Brunson's going to do what he does, and you have to try to like maximize around him. And whether or not they can do that is a question that we're going to have this season. But I think a styles thing also factors into that, though, to your point.
Oh, of course. The style matters, obviously, and the pace and the freneticism, which is with Indiana plays, which is why they have to go 10 deep, right? You cannot play that style with only 5 dudes. They will burn out and not make it. So it makes total sense, right?
Yeah.
And it is all of this to me. Again, I said this to you, I think both of you on separate shows. The goal, you're the Knicks, right? Because you are a team that is in win now mode. The goal is to deliver your best players to the most important part of the season in the healthiest shape possible.
Right.
You ain't going to do that without a bench. Sorry. I don't know. And you're not going to win. So figure it out.
So with all that said, that kind of leads me to where I want to go next, and it's has to do with free agency. But you saw LeBron James opt into his contract. You know where I'm going with this. And you saw LeBron opt into his contract, and you saw the comments from Rich Paul after talking about LeBron still wants to be in the best place where he can win. And of course, you had Knicks fans on social media acting like it was 2010
Lord
again.
have mercy.
Hey, yeah, you should be a Lord of mercy.
Lord
They're
have
acting
mercy.
like it's 2010 again, Gerard. And they said, how can we get LeBron James to the Knicks? To that, you say what?
Listen, y'all listen again. LeBron, probably the greatest player of all time. All right. But that's over now. You do not want someone making what's he make? What's that last year? This deal 50 something mil?
56.3, I believe. That's
going to crush your team's salary cap. And he has to get traded, which means you have to trade back everything of value. It's just for a 1-year shot that maybe you might have a chance to possibly maybe win a title, but you won't even because you won't have enough pieces. You'll sacrifice that aforementioned depth I talked about, and you are banking on a 40-plus-year-old man staying healthy, which likely not going to happen.
In year 23. Also, I will note this in terms of what you trade for him. I wonder how much it would actually be because teams, given what Brian Windhorst said, are going to be hesitant about moving that much. There's an understanding there. And also, he does have a no trade clause. So, and this was, I think, the power move in doing it. It's like you take the option, you release a statement, and it's like, LeBron, Rich Paul are super calculated. Everything they do is intentional and sometimes passive aggressive. So I feel like they're kind of just, I don't think they're going to get traded today, but there will maybe be a time at some point this year where it's like, all right, this is not the best course of action. But if I'm any of the 29 teams, I'm like, yo, am I really going to sign up for this with him turning 41 in December?
The only thing
and I have to trade for his son too, on top of that, most likely.
Probably. The only thing you'd be doing is trying to sell more merch and get more gate revenue. Because really, who is in a position to trade for LeBron James today at this stage? And that is a situation where they're going to win a or be a favorite to win a championship. Literally
Cleveland.
Right.
But the only thing is, it matching the contracts is not easy.
Correct.
Because Evan Mobley won Defensive Player of the Year. So now that salary situation is going to.
And I'm sorry, I'm not giving up Evan Mobley right now for LeBron James. Sorry.
No.
I'm just not.
Well, he's not where I was going. I think that the deal looks different because I think Jared Allen conceptually, as a screener for Luka Doncic, makes a ton of sense.
Okay.
But also, you're going to need more money than that.
Play this out. Play this out. Who else would go besides Jared Allen?
This is where it gets dicey
Garland?
because it's
Garland?
and then it's like you don't want to do Garland
but you're gonna have to,
But that's what I'm saying. It's literally just Cleveland, but
and
with
it don't even make sense for them,
right? Financially, you can't really get there. I mean, you can, but it's very difficult.
And by the way, despite how the playoffs went for Cleveland this year, and I would argue injuries played a big factor in that, the way Cleveland plays ball under Kenny Atkinson is very nice and very free flowing. That ain't how LeBron James is playing basketball at this stage. So do you even want to deal with that?
I will say this before we got to run, Gerard. I will say I do kind of agree with Brian that Cleveland's probably the only team that would do it. I do not think it makes sense for the Knicks. But again, some Knicks fans, you see this already on social media. I've seen it even in my mentions. They're acting like it's 2010.
I kind of think Miami might do it, but
there might be another one. But that's
he wants to go hang out in South Beach because he got a home down. Does he love his house down there, or do you sell that house? Whatever.
I think a lot of NBA players got a house down there. To be fair,
I mean, cool, and no state tax. He loves it down there. It's cool. It's warm weather all year round. I mean, you got that in LA, but whatever. Look,
right.
Again, I think teams need to get out of this mindset of these kinds of players are going to change our fortune. No, man, that ain't it. That's not the lesson to be learned from Oklahoma City and Indiana. That ain't the lesson.
That's a great point.
That's a great point. I agree. Folks, that is Gerard Hector. Check him out on True Hoop. Doing a fantastic job there. Gerard, appreciate the time. Enjoy the rest of your we're now in the second hour of free agency. Enjoy, man.
I appreciate it, fellas. Talk to y'all.
All right.
By the way, Jake LaRavia actually going to the Lakers, apparently.
I thought it was the Kings.
Chris Haynes corrected himself.
Oh,
Chris
so
Haynes
he's going to the Lakers.
Offered the correction. Shams reported it also. So Jake LaRavia, 2 for 12 to the Lakers. That's interesting.
I like
A
that deal
spacer
I like
for
that
Luka
Lakers.
and for now LeBron. For now at least.
Trey Jones,
3 Jones,
3 year, $24 million to the return to the Bulls.
Yep, 3 for 24. That's interesting. So watch that number, because you always have to look at, when you're canvassing the league, you always have to look at these deals. And for other point guards, like we talked about Clarkson, I know Jeff mentioned like maybe on a minimum he'd consider it, but I would be surprised if Clarkson had to at this point like take the minimum. Although you would argue, hey, he's getting a buyout, so he's going to have some money. So will he be okay with the minimum?
No, good point. Perfect segue. We're going to talk to our next guest about that. And the guest person joining us is the fantastic beat reporter for the New York Post covering the Knicks. My guy, Stephan Bondi, joins me now. Steph, what's going on, man?
What's up, fellas?
How you doing, man? Steph, first of all, I talked to you a little bit on the phone earlier today. Jordan Clarkson bought out now. What are you hearing about him with the Knicks? Is there any real interest there? And what would the Knicks get him for? Would it be the taxpayer level, or would it be the minimum?
I mean, I don't know the price, but there is interest. That is legitimate. So I can report that. I can tell you that. He's a guy that has been on the Knicks radar previously. It should be noted that he is represented by Rich Paul. So that's something you always have to keep in mind with the Knicks. But he is somebody that there's mutual interest between those two parties, and it's something that could be done in free agency.
Could happen there. News is coming out here too. D'Angelo Russell, 2-year, $13 million deal with Dallas.
Yeah.
There. Also, got to talk to you about this coaching search that you've now been a part of for weeks. That is still going on. What's the latest? We know Mike Brown has a second interview with the Knickerbockers. There also was some talks about the Knicks being interested in Dawn Staley. What can you tell us about those two things?
Yeah. So Mike Brown didn't have the interview yet, but he is the first and so far as far as I know, the only coach to get a second interview. And that kind of gives you an indication about where their priorities lay, that this guy is in their focus. As far as Dawn Staley, I know CP from Knicks Fan TV. He reported over the weekend, maybe, about the Knicks touching base with her. That is true. I confirmed it, and also the AD from South Carolina said, who wouldn't want to talk to her, while confirming that too. But as far as I know, I wouldn't say that she's a top candidate. I don't even know if there was a formal interview done, but they did touch base with her and talk to her about the job.
Is the interest on Dawn Staley specifically, is that one way, or does she have interest in the role as well?
I don't know what she has interest in.
Yeah, it's hard, and I've heard some different things about that. I actually was telling Steph offline about that with that, but nothing that I could definitively report here. Steph, I think Clarkson feels like he would be a nice piece. There's interest. The Knicks could use another ball handling guard to help this team with Jalen Brunson. What other areas would you like to see them address, or think they're focused on addressing here in free agency?
Yeah, I mean, they have depth needs on basically every position, but they need a backup point guard. They need another wing, and they need another front court player, and they need those kind. I mean, listen, the guy that I really like is Bruce Brown. I don't know what kind of price he'd be available at, but if you're getting Jordan Clarkson, then it wouldn't make sense to get Bruce Brown. But he's a guy that I've always liked. I liked him back when he played for the Brooklyn Nets. I know the Knicks had interest in him when he became a free agent before he signed with the Pacers. He was actually the first call that he got in free agency was from Leon Rose and Tom Thibodeau. So he's somebody that I've always liked. I would choose him, but listen, like I said, they have interest in Jordan Clarkson. They're kind of play similar positions, I guess, but they're different players. Jordan Clarkson's a chucker, and he got bought out by the Utah Jazz for a reason. They need some scoring off the bench. Obviously, he would provide that. So I think that aspect of it, it's a good fit.
What would you get into the Russell Westbrook business if you were the Knicks?
I wouldn't touch it.
But to what degree are they interested because there were reports about mutual interest between.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly. I don't doubt the reports of that, but I haven't heard that myself. So I don't doubt that, but it's it's not something that I heard, and it's certainly not something that I personally would not touch. The guy has been, everywhere he goes. It's just like I get it. Like he has a lot of fans in the NBA. He has a lot of fans amongst the players who've idolized him when they were younger. But to me, I mean, he's been basically a losing player for years now. And I understand, the Nuggets made the playoffs and he had a couple big moments in the postseason and they gave him a bigger role. But he's getting a lot older. He's an older guy who relies on athleticism. And he's the type of guy that thinks he's better than he is.
Yeah, I would not get in that business, Steph. Also not denying those reports. I just wouldn't get in that. I don't know if you saw this trade that just came in, Steph. The Nuggets are trading Michael Porter Jr. and an unprotected 2032 first-round pick to the Nets for Cam Johnson.
So this was a salary dump kind of move?
Salary dump kind of move. A little shocked the Nets didn't get a pick that was maybe more closer to this timeline. So 2032 is a long way out.
Although, I mean, that's a bet on the Nuggets potentially like down the road. I mean, we'll break that down further. We did just talk to Bryan Lewis about the Nets doing something like this. We just didn't project it would be Michael Porter Jr. So that's interesting.
Yeah. He's a young. I mean, he's still a youngish player. Who has some defensive issues and could shoot better or more consistently from outside. More consistently.
What do you think?
He's big. He's a big body who has a lot of, he's got a lot of potential in that body. I mean, he was considered the best player in high school for a reason.
He was. Yeah, and he only has 2 years left on that contract too, so maybe that explains the draft pick situation. Steph, wanted to ask you about another player in particular. Are you hearing anything in regards to Dennis Schroeder potentially for the Knicks?
No, I have not heard that name. There was a team, and I wish I had prepped for this one before because I did hear a team that was interested in him, and I lost it. It was in my mind.
I think it was the Kings because there was a report about
they reached out to him early.
Yeah, that the Kings are trying to meet with him and Russell Westbrook.
Okay,
I found that interesting. I know the Knicks. I mean, it appears that they're going to look for like scoring coming off the bench, particularly from the guard spot. Maybe some sort of release valve for Jalen Brunson. It seems like that's the archetype. Are there other types of players that they're looking at outside of maybe the guards that we've been discussing?
Yeah, they're looking for obviously win now players, and they're looking for players that can provide who are willing. Listen, the plan is to give the bench more of an opportunity under this new head coach. There was a lot of debate amongst the ownership and front office about how Tibbs didn't use his bench enough and how they need to focus on player development. And so the Knicks do have a set of young players that they believe will get better. And I'm talking about Tyler Kolek, Ariel Hukporti, Bacome Dadier. So you have to be willing to come in and understand that you might not be playing that much because the Knicks have a set starting lineup. Assuming there's no trades, you got first seven in the rotation are basically set. And then you have young players who could possibly eat up a lot of playing time. So, they're looking for guys that are willing to say, all right, I understand my role is not going to be that great here. I understand that I'm going to have to earn it. Nothing is going to be given to me. And that I might not be playing a lot of minutes all the time. So I think the mindset is more important than anything with this role that the Knicks are kind of giving these free agents, which is why I would not touch Russell Westbrook. I don't think Russell Westbrook would be happy sitting on the bench and saying, you know what, why is Miles McBride playing ahead of me? You know what I mean? Like that would not be the kind of person Russell Westbrook would.
As you were talking, a couple other guards just signed to some teams. Ty Jerome per Shams is going 3 years, $28 million to the Grizzlies, which I think is an interesting number that some people thought would have been higher at one point. And Dennis Schroeder is actually going to the Kings, according to Fred Katz. So a couple of more guards off the board that maybe the Knicks could have added.
So Steph, to that point though, the Ty Jerome signing to the Grizzlies and Luke Kennard still being out there. What do you think about Luke Kennard as a fit for the Knicks?
Yeah, I think that's a good fit. I think Tyus Jones would be a good fit too.
Agree.
So, yeah, I mean, there are guys that, like I said, I think you have to have the proper mindset for the role that the Knicks want you in, and the idea that you're not going to be a starter. So I think Luke Kennard would be fine in that role. I think Tyus Jones would be fine in that role.
Yeah, I like both of those players. I had them in a video I did the other day about guys the Knicks could sign. With Kennard, I wonder if he would sign for the taxpayer mid-level exception, or would he be, if based on his shooting, shot over 43% from downtown, and he kind of priced himself out of that. That's
nobody has cap space, so good luck.
Yeah,
right. So you might not get more than that. It's like take what you can get.
I mean, unless you're signing with the Brooklyn Nets, who I don't know how much cap space they just ate up. Making that trade for Michael Porter Jr., but I mean, there's no cap space out there. There's going to be a bunch of mid-levels. Now, granted, there's different levels of mid-levels. There's the taxpayer mid-level, which the Knicks have to pay, and then there's the non-taxpayer mid-level, which would obviously get somebody like Luke Kennard more money. But just off the strength of the cap space, is really not out there anymore. The NBA has completely shifted to where players say, I'll sign my extension now. And teams say, we'll give you your extension now to lock you up and then figure it out later. Sign and trade, whatever it takes. But, free agency is kind of a dud now.
Yeah, it is. Also, I don't know about I miss when trades, not trades, excuse me. I miss when signings happened right at 6 o'clock, 6:01. I miss that. Now we've
You do?
away.
You like the tampering?
Yeah, come on. Look, Steph, everybody's tampering. We knew this. Like, why do we have to act like this is what's going on?
I mean, listen, what happened was in 2019, this became like a big sticking point when the Nets got all those guys and like they basically knew, like it was being reported hours before free agency was supposed to start that they were getting those guys. I think the story was Sean Marks didn't even know that Kevin Durant was signing with the Nets. He just said, I'm signing, and he was telling people. So I think the tampering got out of control, and at least the optics of the tampering. You're right, it still happens, but the optics of the tampering got out of control. A lot of the small market teams complained because they're like, why this is an unfair advantage already, and now you got guys tampering to try to get our guys. And so Adam Silver tried to nip it in the bud. And so I'm sorry that you're not as entertained, but I think that's a product of that.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Somebody asked here in the chat, they asked, what was the latest? Have you heard anything on a Mikal Bridges extension? Have you heard anything on that stuff?
No, but logically, this is what my thought process was, and this is just a theory, that you get a new coach in before you make a decision like that. We're talking about a big decision. You could tell me, all right, we don't need a coach to decide who we're taking 50th overall, especially since that guy's probably not going to be part of our rotation. We want to stash him away so we have more money. You could sell me on the idea that we don't even need a coach to tell me who to sign with our small mid-level exception. But you need a coach to be like, I want Mikal Bridges on my team for the next 5 years, or I want this guy off my team. So I think that, to me, or you could reverse it and you could say, if I'm Mikal Bridges, I want to know who's going to be my coach first before I decide to sign this extension. So to me, it makes a lot more sense to make that decision after a coach is hired. But I've always said, listen, if he doesn't sign an extension, he immediately becomes a trade candidate.
Oh, absolutely. Well, let's go there for a second, and then I'll let you run because we appreciate the time. If he does decide the extension and became a trade candidate, what do you think the Knicks would be looking to get back in return? Because then he and Mitchell Robinson would be their most tradable assets. What do you think they'd be looking to get back in return if that was the case?
I'll tell you what they're not getting back.
5 first-round picks.
5 first-round picks.
Yeah. They can't recoup. That's not recoupable, Steph. That's not happening.
Right. Listen, if you trade a guy like Mikal Bridges, who you did trade, I know everybody says, "Oh, you can't double down on a loss and decide to keep him and extend him just because you gave up the 5 first-round picks." Listen, it means something that this front office gave up 5 first-round picks for him, and in order to trade him, you're gonna have to get a lot back, and you have to be Giannis Antetokounmpo, whatever his name is, that type of deal.
Yeah,
Giannis suffices, I believe. I think I think everybody will forget about what the Knicks gave up for Mikal Bridges if they somehow get Giannis Antetokounmpo. Yeah,
I
Do you think that will legitimately pop back up at some point? I mean, the noise will, but do you think like the actual...
I mean, it makes sense. Like if I'm Giannis, I'm looking at this Bucks team. Like, what are we gonna do? Like I'm in my prime. I'm the best player in the Eastern Conference, and we don't have a shot. We legitimately don't have a shot to win a championship. If I'm him, and listen, I'm not. Everybody's built differently. I'm sure he's a very loyal guy, but it makes a lot of sense for him to try to switch teams, because it's not just that the Bucks are bad now; it's that what's the avenue to getting better? How many years does Dame have left?
After this season, 2.
Yeah.
All right.
After this coming season, 2.
He's going to become even worse of an asset. You're not going to even if you decide to trade him, Dame, you're not getting much back for him. I don't see what they have going for them, the Bucks, in order to improve the team.
I just wonder in the trade talks
there's one way.
Leverage there. Let me hear.
There's one way is that's trade Giannis. That's how you get a good,
because they also don't have a lot of draft capital because they traded it, a bunch of it in different deals. Kuzma, they had to dump Middleton. Obviously, getting Damian Lillard to begin with, like they just don't have a lot. And yeah, I agree, but again, we don't know what Giannis ultimately wants. So I feel like that's one of those things that may come to a head maybe during the season or maybe next season. But it seems like for right now he's going to stay. But I think the noise is always going to be there with the Knicks.
Yeah,
so.
it is.
Yeah, what's always a big day for this is disgruntled players is media day. They either show up or they don't.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. You think
3 more months?
Just to be clear, I don't want anybody doing that. That is not Steph saying that Giannis is going to hold out.
No,
that's not what he said. But if you want to make a play, that is how you get it done.
I've seen it before.
Whoa! Bruce Brown just signed with the Nuggets.
Oh, there you go.
On a 1-year deal per Shams going
back. What do you get?
I'm just seeing the 1-year deal.
That's interesting.
Does that mean it's a veteran minimum? I'd love to know the terms of that. But so I mean, I wonder because there's been rumors about whether or not Nikola Jokic is happy there, and getting Bruce Brown back and actually making this trade for Cam Johnson, I think, are 2 things that he'll like.
Yeah, it's very interesting moves there. Well, that takes one of a guy that Steph thought would be a good.
These guys are they're coming. They're leaving off the board a little bit.
The Knicks options might be interesting here. Clarkson.
Yep, and Dennis Schroeder's with the Kings. Yep,
the Kings.
Yeah,
and you talked about Luke Kennard maybe not getting what we think he would get because there's limited cap space out there. Steph, we're not going to hold you up. We appreciate the time. Thank you for the info on the coaching search. Enjoy the first couple hours, I'd say, of free agency. Although we got to bring back tampering, man. We got to bring back tampering.
It makes the night easier. It makes the night easier.
It makes the night easier. There we go. Steph, appreciate y'all. Talk to you soon, man.
All right, bro.
All right, that's Stephan Bondi, great Knicks beat reporter working for us here at the New York Post. And we'll get some other reaction. Going to have another guy from Knicks Film School, another fan, a guy I like very well, sat here with me and Bryan during the Knicks playoff run. I also will say, since I did it for Gerard, the only thing I don't like about this man, well, maybe 2 things, roots for the Ravens and also roots for Tottenham, but I kind of don't really care about
that. Does he? I didn't know that.
He does. Sean Hardy from Knicks Film School joins us now. Sean, what's up, man?
Hello, gentlemen. Good to see you all again. And that is European champion Tottenham Hotspur to you, Mr. Henry. So please,
about Europa League.
We are not champions of Europe, but we are European champions.
Now, for people who don't watch soccer, they'll be like, "Yo, that doesn't make any sense at all." It does. But Sean also, you know what? Here's the thing. I'm gonna be nice because I was nice to Sean about this. Sean didn't know what it's like. He hasn't seen any trophies in a long time when it comes to soccer, and he got a trophy, so I can't be mad at him. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't know what that's like. You know what I mean? But I know what it's like to be at the top of the Premier League because my team is. So
why are we talking about old stuff? Get out of here! Come on,
we're talking about old stuff. We about to do it again. Back to back.
Liverpool. We're about to talk Liverpool.
Anyway, let's talk.
I can't.
Let's talk about new stuff. Bryan doesn't have it. Well, Bryan does have it.
No, my team got smoked in the Europa Conference League final.
He did. He's a Betis fan.
Yeah. Sorry to hear that, sir.
As of March 2025.
Very new.
Die hard since March 2025 because I went to Sevilla and fell in love. So that's
very
new
the
story.
Sean, I'm going to ask you what I've asked the last couple of people we talked to about the Knicks, including Stephan Bondi, who was just with us. there was some reported interest from Mark Stein that the Knicks had interest in Russell Westbrook. If you were the Knicks, would you get into the Russell Westbrook business?
No.
I didn't even need the hand motions. You know what I love about this? Nobody's even being that deep with it. They're just like, nah, wouldn't do it at all whatsoever. We don't have to do this. Let's not do it. You know what? I don't even have to ask you why. There's no need for us to do this. Let's just.
But if you'd like to tell it,
if you want to share with us,
I'll frame it this way for you, Sean. What do you think? Because I think whoever they sign will have to play with Jalen Brunson in spurts. You know this. What do you think Russell Westbrook and Jalen Brunson minutes would look like?
It would look like Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart minutes, except with less rebounding, and there'd be more shooting. However, the shots going in, that's another story.
Yeah, he'll take the shots that you want Josh Hart to take. The problem is he might hit the side of the backboard on a couple of them every single game.
Oh my goodness! Like real quick, 5 years ago, the summer of 2020, we were in this exact same spot. Ooh, should the Knicks go after Russell Westbrook? Because remember, he got traded to Houston, went into the bubble, didn't work out, and it was like, who wants Russ? And of course, so we as Knicks fans in 2020, and I didn't want him then, but I understood the argument then because it was like, we have nothing, so he'll raise your floor, and at least they'll help to be better, and the Knicks now being 6 wins away from a championship. Why? And I literally just why? Why?
Well, because people love names, right? Which is why some people, I know you've seen it, and at Golden State, Kevon Looney is leaving Golden State to go to New Orleans.
For the Pelicans. Did you see that?
Yeah,
2 years, $16 million for Kevon Looney.
It's very interesting. But, and I know you've seen this, what I was going to say.
Wait, what? Wait, did you say 60?
16, not 60.
Okay.
Wow.
I mean, no, it's weird because they just traded for Derek Queen and they also have Misi. So I don't know what.
I'm still saying keep your eye on Zion Williamson moving out of there.
Yes.
I'm going to say that.
No, I agree with that.
Something is.
By the way, the Knicks probably shouldn't get him either because I know that might pop up in the chat. Like
a lot of Knicks fans want to go back, which is where I was going next.
To 2019.
Sean, they want to get back to 2010 too. And they want to talk about trading for LeBron James. Would you get into the LeBron James business? There we go.
I have been off the LeBron James bandwagon since 2017. And I believe 2017, the summer of 2017 is when he signed with the Lakers. And I remember that at that point was like the lowest amount of chatter amongst the fan base about LeBron, because it was like, all right, you know what? Like, because in 2017 we were nowhere, we had nothing. That was the year after that was the summer after the cap spike when we brought in Joakim Noah, Courtney Lee, Derrick Rose, those guys, and the season didn't go very well. And there was the least amount of chatter because at that point we were like, honestly, like, why will we get into the LeBron business? If you told me 8 years later we back here again, it's just like, what? Like, but to your point, it's names.
That's all it is.
There are people twerking for Kevin Durant last week, and it's like Kevin Durant is 37 years old, has not played 60. I think he hasn't played 65 games since 2019. So why would we do that? Like, see, what I've realized that there are moves that make sense in theory and in practice. In theory, if you take LeBron James, you say, all right, LeBron, you're going to come off the bench. You're going to play like 25 minutes a game. You'll be our facilitator off the bench, do all things. Maybe you'll play some lineups with Brunson. Yes, in theory, that would make sense. But in practice, that's not going to happen. Like, now, what gives me 1%, what drives 1% of consideration is watching how he and Luka were able to play together, because I was like, well, LeBron's going to need the ball and Luka needs the ball, and he made it work. Like, he deferred to Luka, personally, because he's like, I'm 40 years old. So I wouldn't be concerned about him saying, like, deferring, for lack of a better phrase. But again, in theory, that makes sense. But in practice, like, and the circus that will come along and everything is just like, listen, LeBron's been using. Yes, go ahead.
He's 41 years old
in December.
Yes.
And I'm not age shaming, but Father Time is undefeated. And LeBron can still do it offensively. He's going to hurt the Knicks defensively. No. We don't have to do this.
We don't. We're better now.
We have to talk about it because it's good for content.
Yeah, we're better now. It's like, yes, in 2010, when we were the kid out of high school with the bad acne and our clothes didn't fit and whatever, it's like, yes, we would love to have LeBron, but now we've cleared, our skin is cleared up. We learned how to dress. We got a degree. We got a good paying job. Like, we got a cool apartment. Like, why would I go like, no, leave that alone. We can do better. We can do better, which is crazy to say about LeBron James. But to your point, on December 30th, he will be 41 years old. And leave it to the Knicks. The day he puts on orange and blue will be the day he breaks down.
Because he's 41. Anyway, who? Let's keep it broad, because Bryan and I brought up. I think Bryan and I are reasonable basketball fans. I think you are too, Sean. There's some reasonable names the Knicks can get, maybe a good value. We brought up Jordan Clarkson is reportedly atop the Knicks wish list, who got bought out by the Jazz. You got Luke Kennard, we've talked about. Bruce Brown is now off the table. Gerson Yabusele. Sean, are you with us? The screen went black.
I'm here. Where did I go?
You better know where you are.
I'm still here. That's weird. Okay, I'll fix this.
That's fine, but we can still hear you. I will belabor the point while you fix it, and then our producers will bring you back up. Gerson Yabusele is another name I thought would be good. Don't know if the Knicks are priced out there, although nobody has cap space. Luke Cornett just got 4 years and $41 million from the Spurs. Who are the players you'd want the Knicks to get into business with?
Luke Kennard was. I didn't know that. Luke Kennard was an interesting name that I had an interest in. There was a guy I low-key had interest in, and he just signed, and that would have been D'Angelo Russell, but simply like a vet minimum guy off the bench who can dribble the basketball. Like, that's how I would have won. Okay, 2 years, 13 million. It was Dallas. I couldn't remember what it was. Like, and he's CAA. So I would have entertained that. Like, here's a vet minimum. Your job is to come in, like an upgrade of the campaign role. Like, you come in, you're going to provide a spark offensively, whatever. 39% from the field is scary in 2025, but again, for vet minimum, what have you. Obviously, he's gone. It looks like Luke Kennard is gone. In terms of guys who come off the bench, like, I'm way more open to Jordan Clarkson, who when you were talking to Stephan Bondi, I saw you put his stats up that he shot 40%. Like, he's a volume guy. He's gonna put it up, right? 36% from three. Like, the Knicks just need guys who like can dribble and shoot. And if you can play some defense, like, because I mean, we have 5 of them. Well, dribble and shoot. Yeah, we have 5 of them. Well, 4, because our starting shooting guard doesn't like to shoot. But if we could use 3 more guys, I would consider it. But honestly, at the same time, like, I'm ready for Tyler Cole to be the backup point guard. Like, why can't he be the backup point guard?
Jeff said the same thing. Our guy Jeff Johnson was on here. He said the same thing.
Yeah,
it's time.
But are you confident, Sean, that because you're in a situation now where the organization is basically like, all right, it's championship or nothing now. And do you feel comfortable going into the season with Tyler Kolek backing up Jalen Brunson, or do you feel like you're going to have to bring in a veteran to compete with him, or maybe you start with the veteran and maybe you hope Kolek wins the backup job? Like, how would you navigate that?
I think bringing in a veteran to at the least for mentorship, right? Like, I saw someone on the timeline on Twitter say, like, you know, if you bring in Russ and he serves that PJ Tucker role, like, you know, veteran leadership, not going to play much off the bench. But I was like, yeah, I would in theory, but in practice, that's not going to happen. Like Russ is not going to come in to not play.
Right.
So I mean, listen, I think that Tyler Kohler should have played more last year, and this is the legacy. This is the legacy of Tom Thibodeau haunting us from the basketball grave, where it's like, if you'd play this kid more minutes, maybe he'd be a little bit more ready. But whatever. I'm not gonna beat a dead horse. Other than that, like I'm not looking at RFAs. I'm looking at unrestricted free agents who are guards. That like I saw Malik Beasley's name. Not that we could afford him anyway, but no one be.
You might now. You might now. We just don't know if he's gonna play again. That's the problem.
Clint Capella's going back to Houston
in a trade.
3 years, $21 million.
Clint Capella has been rumored. He's been in trade rumors in Atlanta for God knows how long.
3 centers,
right. And he was unrestricted. Well, okay. Because now Houston has him, Sengun, and Steven Adams. Interesting. Well, honestly, Clint Capella is low key washed. Low key.
He's paid less than Steven Adams, so that tells you a lot.
But here's the thing. What we have to realize now in this new CBA in this post-apron, in the second apron era, a lot of these contracts are being signed to be able to trade. Because I always remember Bill Simmons would say, like, when you want to make trades, you can't have a bunch of guys who make $50 million and a bunch of guys who make $5 million. You need guys who are in that to make salaries work. You need guys in that 10, 15, 25 million, $20 million range. Like Jabari Smith got 5 for 122. Everyone's like 5 for 122. I'm like, dude, that's a good that's a tradable number. It's a number that won't break the bank, that you can you don't have to aggregate. If you can only aggregate 2 salaries, you can do that. So like I don't know what they're gonna do with that, but but in terms of guards, like we were never gonna get. I wouldn't have wanted Malik Beasley anyway, because we do need guys who can defend. I mean, you don't have to be freaking prime OG Anunoby, but guys who can like a Dante DiVincenzo level of defense, right? That will be fine. I saw that Charlotte is not offering Trey Mann a contract, so he's gonna go into free agency. Could that be a thing? I heard you got that. Yeah, I heard you guys talk about Dennis Schroeder went to did you say Sacramento?
Yeah,
Sacramento, and the Pistons just signed Karis LeVert, 2-year, $29 million.
There it is.
Okay, that's it. See, I thought the Pistons. I thought that would have been who's the guy I thought was gonna go to there's a guy. Robinson? No. He would have been like a secondary ball handler. Ty Jerome. I thought they would have Ty Jerome.
Ty Jerome. He ended up going to Memphis.
Yeah.
He's in Memphis.
3 for 28.
Okay.
So about 10 million per 9.3 on average.
So it looks like Luke Kennard's not going back there, and that's what keeps that open for the Knicks.
Yeah. So I think Luke Kennard will be the I don't want to say the prize, but that'll be if we can bring in Luke Kennard, that'll be a good fit.
I think right now of the guys available, it's him or Clarkson, unless I'm just blanking on somebody. Because Clarkson could give you that creativity, and I think he could survive next to Jalen Brunson for spurts, because I think the person has to be able to do that. But I think Kennard's going to be a better complementary fit because of the shooting. Like he's just a knockdown. He can go 2 for 5 every game from deep.
Yes.
And they need that. And he can play off of Jalen Brunson. He's not going to do a ton with the ball, but he could play off of Jalen Brunson really well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We have in the chat, just want to acknowledge some people. Just Fred has been rocking us from the beginning. He does not agree with us about LeBron. He said, I somehow feel like LeBron is an exception and that he could fit in almost anywhere and make an immediate impact, even in a non-LeBron way. He would bring in energy and jumpstart the fan base, and I could see him leading and inspiring. 2 things here, Just Fred. Appreciate the comment. Jumpstart the fan base? Have you been outside MSG or seen outside after a playoff game? The fan base is jump-started. They've been waiting for this. Like LeBron's going to do that, and I think they already have a leader who's done that in Jalen Brunson. Mm-hmm. I'm going to echo a lot of what Sean said here. I understand, fans, you love names, and this has been a brand on the league for 23 seasons now. But he makes a lot of money, and he's old, and he does not defend at a high level anymore. How does that make your team better? And you'll also have to gut some of your depth, which is already a hindrance to the Knicks. And we saw this through the playoffs. And if anything, the finals told you, you need to be deeper. We talked about this with Gerard Hector. I don't understand. I mean, I do understand because, like I said, people love names. I get it. But Knicks, please don't do this. LeBron James, Russell Westbrook.
Let's go see if Blake Griffin's available while we're at it. Like,
That's it. I'm not gonna play Fred like that. He wasn't going that hard. He said he didn't. Okay, he said he didn't mean just New York. My bad. He said I can't even imagine LeBron as a Knick. Good. Let's just keep it that way. No. My bad, Fred. I didn't understand Fred was talking about he mean everywhere except for New York. And I do think there's a certain fan base he could energize. Cleveland.
That's the one.
That's the one.
I don't know how they get it done, but that's the one.
Oh, it's Garland.
They wanted Garland and Jared Allen. You want to dip back into nostalgia?
Yeah, it's Garland and Jared Allen. And like, but even like earlier, I saw someone tweeted a video about Russell Westbrook highlights. He's like, "Oh, I'll be so happy this guy came. The guy was playing." And I'm like, "Well, wait a minute. These highlights, one, he's in an OKC jersey, which means this is a long time ago. And then I looked closer and I saw Taj Gibson on the. I said, wait a minute. I looked and it was from 2017. And I'm like, we have this idea that like the players, these superstars that we grew up watching and idolizing, that they're going to play the way that we want them to play forever, simply because they're the guy that we like, and it's the Knicks should. And also, LeBron has been twirling, trying to twirl New York City around his finger since 2010. He's the Bow Wow meme, like once a year, boop, like every and it's just like, yo, how can you keep falling for the banana in the tailpipe? Like, shout out to Alan Hahn. He tweeted a picture yesterday, the gif yesterday of Charlie Brown running, kick the football, and Lucy pulling it away. And so many people had no idea what it meant. It was like, how many times are you going to allow this guy to do this to you? Like wearing the Knicks towel after, like, stop. Like, he's using you. He is using you for like all this stuff you complain about about how ESPN and Fox and all these things use us for engagement bait. That's literally what LeBron does every year, and fall for it hook, line, and sinker.
How do you feel about the reports about Mike Brown? I don't want to say is the front runner to be the Knicks head coach, but we're seeing his name more and more, and it looks like a second interview seems to be in the works. Would you like that hiring if they went in that direction?
I would not have a problem with that hire. I was just watching Jonathan Macri on Knicks Film School, and he was saying that in the last 19 seasons, the Sacramento Kings have had 2 winning seasons, and those 2 winning seasons were under Mike Brown.
Yep.
He's a defensive coach, but he clearly, like, that offense in Sacramento was humming. Mm-hmm. He's been there before. He's been around the block. He's coached good teams. Like, to your point, Brian, like, this team is trying to win the championship. Obviously, Mike Brown has not won a championship, but if you just waited to hire coaches all the coaches who have won championships are not available except Mike Budenholzer and Frank Vogel.
And Mike Malone.
And Mike Malone, who's Tibbs with a toothpick. So I'd be fine with the Mike Brown hire. I see people already crashing out. I see people talking about, he's Tibbs 2.0, and I'm like, no, you clearly have not been paying attention. You're not paying attention. You're not paying attention. I'll be fine. I'll be fine. Mike Brown. Mike Brown will come in day one. He would understand the assignment. And again, he's never won a championship, so he's trying to win a championship. And if he's going to be, and I think the key is collaborate with the front office. Let's work together to put everyone in the best position to succeed, instead of, oh, you don't check all these boxes, so you're not going to play until, oh no, it's game 100 and I need you. Go, get in there. So, I'm fine with Mike Brown.
I'd be fine with it too. But the last thing we'll say before we let you go, Sean, if the Knicks do not sign anybody tonight, people gonna crash out. They don't sign anybody by midnight, they're gonna crash out already. What are they doing? You know, it's like the same people who don't think the Knicks have a plan to hire a head coach. Why do you not think that? Like, why does everything have to be instantaneous? Knicks have a plan. The market will take shape as it's supposed to take shape, and they'll add some pieces. I'm confident of that.
Listen, if
they bring back Campaign and you want to crash out, I'm with you. I see you. That's a reason to crash out.
Shout out Campaign.
Shout out to fellow Steelers fan Campaign.
That's awful. Shout out to Campaign. He helped us win a playoff. He helped us win a playoff game, right? If the Knicks were to bring back Campaign, it will be very similar to when the Knicks brought back Elfrid Payton, like new coach, bring back Elfrid Payton, and then if the Knicks do that, you Knicks Twitter have my permission to crash out. But other than that, Knicks Twitter will crash out if we don't sign anyone today. They'll crash out if we do sign. Like, no matter who they sign today, it will be someone will crash out because it's just what we do. It's just what we do. So we'll see what happens.
They should if they traded for LeBron, that's when people should crash out. But
I would.
See, you would crash out.
I would start drinking heavily, and it's Monday. Like,
because even what the trade would look like, doesn't it kind of have to be?
It's either Cat, it's either Bridges and Anunoby,
right?
Or
I was going to go Bridges and Anunoby.
And there's another possibility. I went through.
And can we stop helping out the Lakers? Can we stop helping out the Lakers? Listen, Nico with his now people see the vision. The vision was to win the lottery with 1.8% chance of winning, but you already this is twice in the last 10 years where the Lakers were on life support and going back and going to sign a long-term. They were going to sign a long-term rental agreement in the projects. And then LeBron went there because he wanted to play basketball. He wanted to live in Los Angeles, play basketball. And then when they were about to sign that, and when they were about to get evicted to go back to the projects, Nico Harrison was like, here, let's stop helping out the Lakers. And if I sound like a hater, guess what? I don't care.
Yo,
I appreciate the
honesty. I appreciate honesty with hating. Like, sometimes you just gotta let the people know you're a hater. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you just have to do that. It's like how you act towards me with the Steelers, you know what I'm saying? Or how you hate on Liverpool football. Sometimes you just got to be a hater. And see, I respect that about Sean. I don't like the fake haters. Don't be fake out there. If you're going to hate, say with your chest.
Stand on business and hate.
There you go. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying to hate on people in general, but sometimes you got to be a hater.
No, sometimes you got to hate on a person. I almost cursed. Sometimes you got to hate on somebody, but it has to be genuine. It has to be genuine. It can't be forced. It can't be on no BS. But sometimes you got to hate on somebody. All this nice, be nice to everybody stuff. That's not you need balance in life.
Oh, hold on. Before you leave, I got to ask you something. Somebody put up here in the chat.
Okay.
He said, what about bringing back RJ Barrett? Toronto's aggressively shopping him. He can help us coming off the bench. Now, Bagger Jones, shout out to you. I don't know if you're – well, that's how Sean feels. I don't feel like I'm having revisionist history. I'm actually not revisionist history, but I remember a lot of the Knicks fan base couldn't wait to get RJ out of here. Didn't want to sign him to the extension. And now we want to bring him back.
So there is still a the RJ Hive still maintains a presence in our fan base. They never left. Listen, when the RJ was scoring 29 a game on efficiency, shooting efficiently, October, November, trust me, there were plenty of victory laps. It's again theory and practice. I think RJ Barrett as a six man, that's his ideal role in the NBA. And if he were coming off the bench for us last year, who knows? But do we really see RJ Barrett coming back to New York to play on the bench? And he's also okay. Well, how much is he making a year? Because he signed that extension was 4 for 106. So So now
Bring him
again,
20.
I have a $25 million $25 million salary has to come off the bench, make salaries work. Like I just don't think it works. Like because he would have to come off the bench, and he can't make that. Like honestly, on RJ's next contract, which probably won't be a $25 million a year, then we can entertain it.
That's fair.
Yeah, I mean,
That's not
I think there's a role for him, just not here.
Yeah.
He's.
I'm not saying that. I don't think Bagley was saying he was like the great player.
He's legitimately gotten better. Just no one knows because they're not watching the Raptors.
No,
but like he legitimately had a good year last year.
And
advanced
he had a
numbers
good start.
better.
He had a good start of the year. Then
it tailed off a little bit. But also, like, I don't know what Toronto's doing, to be fair. Like, it's like they're building around Scotty Barnes, who I'm not sure is really a franchise A1 dude. They have a bunch of dudes who like don't mesh well together. They added another one in Brandon Ingram, who's very difficult to play with. So I think in RJ Barrett's defense, I'm not sure he's really had an ideal situation, like for what he's good at.
I think where I'm with Bagger Jones did say he can help us coming off the bench, and I don't think that he could not. I just don't want it at that.
He's
price.
He's overqualified for that role.
At the price.
I think he can go on a different team and actually be like a legitimate dude, but it's not. It doesn't make sense in New York right now. No. I actually think if he went to the Nets and him and Michael Porter Jr. are just like and Cam Thomas are just taking every shot possible.
That's where you kill me. You had me with him and Michael Porter Jr. And Michael Porter Jr. and Cam Thomas.
Don't forget Cam Thomas is probably going to be back there. So I don't know.
Probably. Sean, we appreciate the time. Don't let anybody try to tell you that you need to trade for LeBron James as a Knicks fan. Don't let anybody try to tell you that you should sign Russell Westbrook. I tell you, if the Knicks sign Russell Westbrook, I'm texting you. First of all, I'll be talking to Bondi and everybody on the show was like, nope.
No, can't not gonna be able to do it.
There it is.
There you go. Not gonna be doing. Sean, I appreciate you, man.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right.
Thanks,
Sean Hardy, Knicks Film School. Catch him on Casual Fridays with our other guests on the show, Jeff Johnson. Shout out to everybody in the chat. A bunch of y'all been rocking with us through the first hour plus, almost coming up on 2 hours of free agency.
Beautiful. We're actually getting deals now.
We appreciate you. Some more deals coming through. We're gonna go for a couple of more minutes, Brian. Anything, I guess, surprising for you here? I was a little surprised at Clint Capella. When you told me that, I was like, oh, okay. And then
Ty Jerome was kind of surprising to Memphis.
Luke Cornett, I understand what San Antonio's doing there. I see the fit. It helps you stretch the floor a little bit more.
4 for 41. Well, he doesn't shoot threes anymore. So I wonder if he's going to stretch.
But he showed some good defensive chops inside, even against the Knicks.
As an anchor, like backing up Wemby, potentially playing with Wemby, maybe starting with Wemby at times. Wemby, there are possibilities there. I still think the Spurs have a lot that they need to figure out in terms of like
they need to consolidate a little bit.
Yeah, like they have Keldon Johnson, they have Devin Vassell. They're not going to move Stephon Castle. They got Harper now. Like they're just.
I think one of those guys, Keldon Johnson, probably more likely than Devin Vassell.
And I think if they had to do it over, if you told the Spurs you're getting the second pick in the draft, they're like, oh, then we're not getting De'Aaron Fox. I think that's how they probably approach it.
Yeah.
I feel like they have De'Aaron Fox for no reason now. And they'll probably trade him in a year, even though Clutch moved heaven and earth to get him there for absolutely nothing. They probably should have given away something.
I think you're right. Somebody might get Fox on maybe without having to give up too much. But yeah, if I think they knew they'd have this glut of young guards, they would have said, nah.
I'm interested in what the Pistons are doing because it's weirdly so Miami's quiet. A couple things there. Karis LeVert just signed, you can't sign yet. These are all agreed upon because moratoriums and I know you hate this, but like it's the rules.
Team tampering.
Yeah, and also comments. We'll get to some of those. So leave some comments. We'll get to some of those on the way out. Karis LeVert, 2 for 29. I wonder now the Beasley situation is very interesting for Detroit, and it's like okay, you can get Duncan Robinson. And if you're Miami, I do wonder if they're waiting for that to happen because there's a couple different things that they've been connected to that I wonder how these are going to materialize. Because on one hand, you have this where it's like Malik Beasley not signing opens up, okay, can you actually send Duncan Robinson to the Pistons? And that makes a couple of Eastern Conference foes for the Knicks interesting because Detroit would then get better. Maybe Miami gets some sort of draft capital back. Maybe it's a lower tier role player because sign and trades are rarely ever equal. Then you have the Lakers with losing Dorian Finney-Smith. Now the Andrew Wiggins rumors make sense, but the Heat are hell-bent on a first-round pick in that deal, which, yeah, why wouldn't you want a first-round pick for Andrew Wiggins if you have like Desmond Bane going for 4 and other guys going for picks that probably aren't like
Seems fair.
Like Andrew Wiggins he was just the second best player on the championship team a few years ago, you know? So it's like I get wanting a pick for him. We'll see. And then Jonathan Kuminga is just sort of lingering out there. Is it going to be Miami? Is it going to be maybe the Nets? Is it going to be Detroit? Like there's a lot of different possibilities with Kuminga there, who I think is very interesting just from a talent buy perspective. But he's restricted. And restricted free agents tend to just re-sign with their own teams and then maybe get traded later. One of the only sign and trade examples I can think of off the top of my head was Grant Williams, who was signed and traded from a restricted free agency situation. And obviously he ended up getting traded very quickly again because it didn't work out in Dallas. And now he blew out his knee. So we don't know what's going to happen there. But a lot of restricted free agents as of late, like they tend to go back. I had a full list of like all the deals. I'm not going to read them all, but just like trust me on this.
Yeah, no, it's I think that's been very, to me, to point at what you said too with Detroit. That situation is so fascinating with Beasley, and if Beasley, you know, is allegedly involved in something with gambling, if he gets caught up on this, because it's risky, and this is the part of business and timing. This is risky for Detroit.
We have another signing. This is a good one.
Well, hold on. What do you got?
Brook Lopez, 2 years, $18 million to the Clippers.
Wow.
The Clippers, by the way, who I legitimately think if they put Zubats in the Kevin Durant discussions, there's a real chance that they could have walked away with Kevin Durant, but they didn't want to trade Zubats because Phoenix was hell-bent on getting a center. They didn't get it in that deal, but you saw on draft night, they got Mark Williams and they got Common Malawach.
This is good. I mean, Lopez is now going to be a backup. He can still help you stretch the floor. It's better for his career. I think he's a guy who can still give you 15 to 20 good minutes if you need it on the night. I like this move for them. I think Lopez is still not – he's lost a step defensively, but he's not going to
be year 18.
It's crazy, man. I remember covering Lopez during his time with the Nets.
Same. I covered his last year in Brooklyn too.
Yeah, that's crazy. Here's Milwaukee. Pieces just going there. I know they brought back Portis. Kevin Porter Jr. re-signed, I think, on a 1-year deal. Two-year deal.
For 11. Didn't love that.
Giannis is like, yeah, what are we doing here?
I think I'm very pro Bobby Portis, as you know.
Yeah, we know.
But that's a lot of money there.
Theo Pinson said Bron leaving LA. Tweeted that.
I don't know if that's just speculation, but players know things and ex-players know things. And Pinson also, he has a podcast that he's probably trying to promote. Salute to Theo Pinson, though. Like I did a feature on him. He gave me a great interview when he was with the Nets. Bagger Jones says LeVert heading to Detroit. Also, Brook Lopez going to the Clippers, as we just mentioned. Just Fred says I'm only commenting, so I'm the only one commenting. So some of the folks here who better have questions.
Just Fred, you got it.
Just Fred is threatening y'all.
He's saying, now. Speak up.
I will say this because you did bring up RJ Barrett. Like I still have RJ Barrett stock. I think there's a pathway to him still being good in this league. My guy Matt Moore, who has multiple Substacks, who actually is probably busy covering the Nuggets now. Like literally right now writing something on the trade that they made, which that's my favorite trade so far of this entire cycle is Denver getting Cam Johnson and then getting Bruce Brown on the back end of that. I'm like, oh, okay, that's really interesting. But I think because Matt wrote this on his Substack, he thinks like the next guy that's like sort of a potential star hiding in plain sight is RJ Barrett. That he thinks that RJ Barrett, if he gets to the right spot, because he could be traded if he gets to the right spot. Now, I don't think that's the Knicks, to be fair, because just contractually, like
I don't see
you have the Mikal Bridges. If they didn't have Mikal Bridges, maybe it's something to discuss, but then you wouldn't have OG Anunoby because RJ Barrett, whatever. But I do wonder if a team who's maybe in that play into like 6 seed, 5 seed range takes a swing on somebody like that, and then he's like a number 2, number 3 guy who similar to the role he had with the Knicks with Brunson and Julius Randle at a time, but I didn't think that was the right fit because both those guys need the ball a lot. It's also weird with 3 lefties. And then with Julius Randle specifically, like, playing next to him, it's not the easiest thing in the world.
I don't know who's that team. Like,
that's the thing. I don't know. Although I think Indiana will be interesting now with Tyrese out. Very different type of player, but I do wonder what Indiana's going to do other than keep Miles Turner. It looks like they're going to do that. There was rumors NBA wise about Indiana, or not Indiana, Detroit being interested in Miles Turner and Naz Reid, one or the other. Both of them being off the board. Well, Miles Turner's not yet.
Miles Turner not yet, but expected to.
But you signed Karis LeVert probably because he's off the board. So I do wonder if Detroit's going to be in the market for a big at some point via trade or free agency, because Jalen Duren had a shaky season in the beginning of last year and then ended up settling in. They might not want to extend Jalen Duren, who is right now extension eligible. And Isaiah Stewart is also giving you like good production on a nice contract, on a bargain contract, if you want to call it that. But he's also not a starter. So I wonder if Detroit's going to be in the market for a big as well.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Detroit's very, very, very fascinating offseason, especially with this Beasley stuff.
Real quick, what do you like? If we should do predictions. Like, what do you think is like the move this week? Like, what do you think is the one that stands out? Like the move that's like, oh, that happened. Like, that's actually, because we Sham said it might be crazy tonight. We'll see. I do think the Cam Johnson thing is a little like that's NBA nerd Twitter is going to be going insane.
I think it's a great deal for both teams.
I like it for the Nets too. I like it for the Nets too.
I think the Nets accomplished what they needed to. I think Denver accomplished what they needed to. They'll probably extend Cam Johnson now that he's in there. I think that'll happen.
Porter's only got 2 years. He could take a bunch of shots.
Yeah,
help you tank. You got a good future first. I think just adding another pick.
I wonder if the Nets are not done. What if they trade Nick Clarkson? I find it interesting. There's going to be some team.
I thought he would be in the Kevin Durant talks. Like, I was wondering why some of the teams. And look, maybe they explored this, but I thought another team could call the Nets and be like, "Hey, we don't want to send our center, be it Houston not wanting to send Şengün or Miami not wanting to send Ware or the Clippers with Zubats. Can you send Nick Claxton and then we'll send you something?" Like, I thought that's an avenue somebody could have taken.
Yeah, I thought they would have got involved in that.
Yeah.
I think there's some other way they'll get involved. And even with Michael Porter Jr. for that, Michael Porter Jr. is a guy who they possibly could try to flip.
Yeah.
Again, at the deadline.
That's true.
Somebody might want him with then a year left on his deal, or, a year and a half. They could flip him again. They could flip him next summer. There's ways they can flip him. People will want the size, the shooting. He'll be very attractive when he's on an expiring deal or approaching that.
And that's the thing with some of these guys that everyone has to keep in mind. Some of these players who maybe they're extension eligible, maybe they're not, but like you have to look at just long term. They might have more value to trade in the season because injuries happen, guys go down. Someone, unfortunately, I'll knock on wood, but it's going to happen, unfortunately. Someone tears an ACL in January, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, man, we lost our scorer. We need a scorer. And then this is where, like a Desmond Bane just got traded, for example. Like, maybe that's a type of dude who in February, like maybe the Celtics flip Anthony Simons. Maybe the Nets get off Porter Jr. The he and Tyler Hero is always something that's going to surface. Like, I think some of these guys will actually may increase in value during the season because of desperation. So I think that's something to watch as far as trades go.
I think I think what's going to happen that's going to be most surprising for people for the rest of this week and beyond is going to be trades. Yeah, I still think there'll be more trades. I still think watch what the Pelicans are doing down in New Orleans. It's just something with Zion. I think there's going to be a lot of trade activity that you're going to see. You're seeing that way teams are trying to reshuffle their books, and because of the lack of cap space. Yeah, I think that is going to allow for this free agency period to be a little bit slower and people to find some value on guys that maybe they think they can get. And this is where like Luke Kennard comes in for the Knicks. Could you get him for a little bit less? Like Stephan Bondi said, a lot of teams don't have cap space. That's what makes it such an interesting market. But at the same time, you're also going to need, and this is where we are in this era with the second apron, you're gonna need. This is how you have to win in the margins, and this is where free agency is going to really become more. You can see free agency, you can see it on the draft, you can see with trades. Can you win on the margins? Can you get these value signings? So not a lot of big names out there, and that's kind of Steph is right about what he said in that killing free agency. But can you win and get these marginal trades, or at least retool your team in a different way,
Right.
the way Denver did tonight with this trade, right? You kick a first round pick down the road when you're probably going to be bad. You get a guy like Cam Johnson who can shoot, doesn't require the ball as much as Michael Porter
Better
Jr.
defender,
and you upgraded, a little bit. You look at the numbers, Michael Porter Jr. Shout out to our guy Wesley, killing it with the graphics here.
Yes.
You see Michael Porter Jr. and what he could bring. Look, he's now the main vet. He's the guy with the ball in his hands. Michael Porter Jr. has always been talented. Can he stay healthy? He does not defend as well. We know he's a liability on that end, but the man can shoot. Now he's gonna see double teams like he's never seen before in his life. You want to talk about somebody who's gonna miss Nikola Jokic? Man, he's gonna miss Nikola Jokic.
Yeah, Nick Claxton is very different. I think a few of the things that I'll be watching out for personally is locally it will be Jordan Clarkson obviously, or Luke Kennard, or somebody else like who the Knicks get. That's going to be fascinating. Obviously, I think it's going to be a piece that has to be like a 6th, 7th, 8th man, somebody that has to be a rotation player, and someone who really like, can you play this guy with Jalen Brunson in spurts? I do feel like it's going to be a guard who can score, so we'll see. Also, Nick Claxton locally, wonder if that's sort of the next domino to fall. His contract is not a terrible one. It's a long-term one, so that might scare some teams, but $25 million this coming year, but descends to 23 and then just under 21 million. So I think that's very interesting, and you can get something for that. I don't know if it's a first, but it kind of depends on the team and the fit. And then elsewhere around the league, the Lakers, obviously, not even exclusive to LeBron, but like just the Lakers in general. I mean, how could you not be curious about what they're going to do? Jonathan Kuminga is an interesting domino for me.
Yes.
I don't know where he's going to end up. There's been rumors about multiple different teams. One of them being the Heat. What are they going to do? That's interesting because I feel like they're kind of stuck in no man's land. And I have an idea of what I think they should do, but I don't think they're going to do it because they think one of those two top guys is better than he is. And you know which one I'm talking about. It's obviously not Bam.
Right.
And then elsewhere, like the Pacers, because, all right, how do you try to get a Halliburton facsimile? You know what I mean? Like, do you try to, or like, what is the move there to navigate this season? Because I think they should remain competitive. There was a report that came out today, or was it a rumor? Two different things, obviously. Benedict Mathurin, like, what's going to happen there? Is he being monitored? Obi Toppin? And I feel like Indy, like, shouldn't blow it up, so to speak.
I thought when you talk about that and getting the facsimile, and then we'll wrap here, I thought Tyus Jones could be an opportunity for him. I thought Dallas was also great. I think he and D'Angelo Russell were two guys that teams could look at and say, oh, they could come in and start for us while we have these injuries to our point guards. Obviously, talking about Kyrie Irving with the Mavericks and then Halliburton with the Pacers. Tyus Jones is somebody who's looking at that opportunity to start. D'Angelo Russell, who now is with the Mavericks, he now will have an opportunity to start for a year. Can you hold it down for a year until we get our guy back in there? This is why some people talk about Tyus Jones with the Knicks. Steph talked about him as well, too.
That's a good one.
I'm not sure how well he fits next to Brunson at the same time. That's one of my concerns.
Yeah.
But
that's fair.
Can he run a team? Oh,
absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely can. He's going to be a steady hand. He's a good backup point guard. I think he's going to want an opportunity to play more minutes, and that's why I would definitely keep an eye on the Pacers with him. So that's what I'm looking for, though. That's a good one. Like, what do those teams do there? Atlanta and Minnesota, this according to Jake Fisher, are in active conversations on a sign and trade for Nickeil Alexander-Walker.
Yeah, that's another one.
And listen, the Hawks are leveling up, man.
Yeah,
that's another good defender.
Listen, I mentioned this on Sports Grid, like it was
last week,
plus 7,000 or something like that. I was like, yo, the Hawks, because when you're trying to project, all right, and make predictions, and for some people place bets, hopefully not Malik Beasley. On like who's going to win what, like you have to look at front offices that are probably going to be aggressive. I like what Atlanta's trying to do, even though I'm not a Trae Young guy, you know that. But I like what they're trying to do. I don't know if it's going to work, but like Kristaps, Onyeka Okongwu, Jalen Johnson has to stay healthy. That's really one of the keys there.
This team is better defensively than that team that went to the Eastern Conference Finals. I would say.
Absolutely, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I think, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker, I think we're overrating him a little bit. Like ultimately, you want him as a 7th or 8th man. I think people think that there's a lot more there. When I think we would have seen it.
I wonder what
in
they
6-7 years by now. But that's interesting.
Luke Garza, 2-year, $5.5 million guaranteed with the Celtics.
That's a Celtic guy.
I have nothing else to add to that.
But with the Hawks, you know what I mean? Like they lose Clint Capella, they don't need him anymore. Karis LeVert's out of there. Reece Shea, I thought gave him some highlights last year as a rookie. Like he looks legitimate. Yeah, like I'm very.
Mentioned Jalen Johnson. You didn't even mention him.
I mentioned him. Yeah,
Okay.
like in terms of the injuries, you know, he has to be healthy. That's the key, and obviously Dyson Daniels, who I mean,
they got some defenders, man, and they got some good two-way players.
I like
now.
the team around. Like if I'm trying to build a team around Trae Young, you need a lot of defense. You need some shooting. I think they're doing a pretty good job of it. So that's a team I'm not sleeping on as it pertains to the East. Detroit also, I think Detroit's going to get more aggressive, but we'll see what that even entails at this point.
Yeah. All right, we'll see how it goes. We've gone for 2+ hours now. We'll see what the Knicks do. Nets already making a trade. Knicks with no signings. I think once Clarkson clears waivers, the Knicks are going to be all over that, according to reports there at the top of the list. It sounds like that will be a minimum signing, especially because he got bought out. Clarkson's got a little bit of a bag, can take the minimum contract. I would expect that with the Knicks. A lot of minimum contracts. I don't think maybe the Knicks would have to use their taxpayer mid-level exception on a guy like Luke Kennard or Gerson Yabusele. Maybe they don't. Maybe they just make a bunch of minimum signings. They say they're going to go with some of the young kids. I think if they make 2 good minimum signings, that's fine. They can even hold their taxpayer mid-level till next year if they want to use it that way. They don't have to use it this year because they don't want to get too close to the second apron. It's going to be very interesting. If you see the Knicks sign 2 mid-level guys, not mid-level, 2 minimum guys quickly, and they get him a good value, or God forbid, God bless, if they somehow sign Luke Kennard to below the taxpayer mid-level, that is a huge win. Not for the players, but it would be for the Knicks. So we'll see what the Knicks do. I think it'll be interesting at all. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Just Fred, shout out to you. You've been rocking with us the whole time. Bag of Jones. I saw Nostalgic Nick up in here. I didn't even shout him out. Who comes on, Sergio Fernandez. Saw you in here, Robert
Hector,
Rivera.
Uptown
Hector
Sports,
was up
who
in
I'll
here.
be streaming with later tonight, either at 10 or 11 p.m. We'll see when I get home.
Peace Sways up in here. We appreciate you guys rocking with us. Look, if some news breaks on the Knicks during free agency, we'll be back up doing some sort of lives this week. Anything breaks with the head coaching search, we'll be doing that.
That's a big
if
one.
you missed this week's episode of New York Got Game, it's out now on the New York Post Sports YouTube channel. A great one where me and Jeremy Cohen of Knicks Film School went through a bunch of the free agent possibilities for the New York Knicks here. So if you want to get caught up, a little free agency primer, shall you say, go check that out. That's a good one for everybody to check out as well. A lot of good stuff is coming. More stuff around New York Got Game, Knicks free agency, Liberty, Nets, the whole thing. Thank you, Just Fred, as he said, informative, entertaining. Plus, I got a shout out. Of course, man, we shout the people out. We are nothing without the people. If you're not watching and then engaging with us, we're nothing without you. So we appreciate that. Remember, Bryan and I do this Knicks Weekly Live during the season. We'll continue to do that. We'll probably have a couple more lives through the off season to do as well. So a lot of stuff coming.
The Nickeil Alexander-Walker money came out. 4 years, $62 million to be with the Hawks.
That's fine for him.
It's about what I thought.
That's about what I thought.
That's very.
I'm curious as to what they get back.
Also a tradable contract in the future.
In that range, yeah, very tradable contract. Very tradable contract.
Atlanta fired Landry Fields, and they're doing some work in that front office.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate for Landry Fields, but
out here doing some work. All right, before another deal comes in, we're gonna get out of here. He's Bryan Fonseca. I'm Dexter Henry. We'll catch you next time on New York Got Game. Peace.